I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and co-owner of PurePleasureShop.com.
I'm April, VP of the cutting-edge sex toy company Hot Octopus, and I dedicate my life to the business of sex.
We are on a mission to teach you how to have hot sex, deep intimacy, and how to make your own rules for who you are as a sexual being.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Revolution.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
This is not a bonus episode. This is the new Shameless Sex. We are now doing 2 episodes a week.
We are coming at you 2 episodes a week. We know you all need it. There's a lot of uncertainty right now in the world, and we're here to bring you a little bit more certainty that you will get double the Shameless Sex. There's 2 of us. There's 2 episodes a week, starting meow.
Starting right meow. And what that means is a lot of these episodes will now have more sex questions answered. This one is not that. This one is an awesome episode with Kyle Thiermann of the Kyle Thiermann Show. He's been in our podcast multiple times, but never with April there. And I have to tell you, it's way better with April there. It's more fun, playful, and informative. And Kyle's an awesome interviewer and he's just a smart, he's like, what I call him, I was like, you're like a brilliant, nerdy, big wave surfer.
He really is,
yeah.
Because he doesn't fit into any category. He covers a lot of different categories.
But he asks really deep, insightful questions. We talk a lot about what's going on right now in the world, a lot of what ifs, like these outcomes of what could happen. We talk about like turning back into this non-monogamous utopian community world. Also some dark stuff brought to you, yours truly, Amy, because I was in more of the darkness on that show.
And now I'm in the darkness on this recording.
Well, April saw some videos of a lot of military trucks being brought into Chicago where you have family.
Yeah.
So that's really scary. And I just want to acknowledge it's scary times. You know, it's a time where there's a lot of feels happening, and you know what's interesting about all these feels? They're changing like every minute, at least in my world.
There's no stability right now for anyone. It's emotionally unstable. It's uncertain with our paychecks, right? Yeah. And people need to eat, and people need to pay their bills. And I think that some countries are handling it well. I don't know how ours will handle it. It's just too soon to tell.
Yeah.
So I want everyone to know that we love you.
Yeah.
And
we love you. We're happy to be doing this and having more episodes. And if you are on some sort of lockdown, hopefully they don't take down the radio waves and we can continue to entertain you and love you from afar and and bring you joy. And you know, right now is a time where pleasure, I mean, it might be hard to find your normal everyday pleasure when you're in all this anxiety, right, or you can't go places. And we say this, I think in this episode, probably the last one too, like start masturbating more, start having more self-pleasure.
I think that's my problem right now. I haven't masturbated in a while.
I mean, I know like sex drive can be down when things are really stressful too. And like there is such thing as just like therapeutic masturbation to like not just rub one out. You can still take your time, but as a means of doing self-care, even if you're not really fully feeling it, it can really change your overall energy. There's a lot of endorphins that come from that.
Yeah.
So it might be something, don't force it upon yourself, but just as a practice, if you're like, I'm not feeling very much in my body, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling kind of down, it might be a time to take that step for some sensual self-care.
People that aren't used to working from home, I just saw this really funny video that was sent to the Hot Octopus group, team message, and it was this couple talking to this guy, and he was like newly working from home, and he's like, "Did you get over the wanking stage yet?" And the guy was like, "Excuse me?"
What's the wanking
stage? And then
the
wives had left, and he came back. He's like, "When does it stop? I'm not productive because I've just been watching porn and wanking." And he's like, "It'll get better. It'll get better." Because you're at home and you're probably like all private. You're like, what's going on the porn circuit right now?
You're trying to close some deals all of a sudden, and you're just
like,
watching porn again.
So it could go one of 2 directions.
Yeah.
I don't know where people are at.
It's all balance. Everything everything is balance, and you don't want to be out of balance with lacking the self pleasure and the self care. You also don't want to go like full force and just dive into it nonstop.
Like, I can't stop wanking. My productivity is low.
I just burned my
but my
clit
pleasure
off.
is high. Yeah.
My clit is gone.
Just a thought for you all out there that perhaps are experiencing more pleasure. We just have to. It's a time of balance, and it's a time that laughter is priceless, and it is the best medicine. Pleasure is that is feeling pleasure, in my opinion. Laughter is wonderful. So
find ways to still find pleasure. And speaking of that, let's talk about pure pleasure. So y'all know I own a sex shop with my mom. We are online, and we are not closed down. I think if Amazon, there's only the essential products that they're still shipping. I don't know if vibrators are included in that. I think they should be, but I kind of doubt it.
They are in sexual health and wellness.
Maybe they are still included in there then, but still, you should still go with the little guys, also known as pure pleasure. And if you are interested in amping up your pleasure, because also, who knows when I don't know, is shipping ever going to close down? I'm not sure. So get them while you can. And Pure Pleasure has all kinds of awesome products. So go to purepleasureshop.com. You all get 15% off with coupon code Shameless Sex. April and I have our go-to vibrators that we love.
Wand, the Digit Finger Vibe is awesome.
Magic Wand if you want power. Digit Finger Vibe if you want something like compact, but still powerful, but compact. It's like and it's good for couples play. Also, I am a huge fan of the womanizer products that kind of suction your clit.
It's true.
Love them.
Yeah.
They're you can't go wrong with any of those.
Now's the time to just invest in yourself.
Yeah. Go take care of yourself and take care of my mom. And me too, but mother-daughter business. And then lastly, one of the essentials, lube is always an essential. I know that when I'm out of lube, I'm like, fuck. Especially that moment when I need it. And Uber Lube actually is considered a medical device. So you will forever be able to order Uber Lube, and we are huge fans. And so Uber Lube was one of our favorites and beloved sponsors. So go to uberlube.com, and our listeners get 10% off and free shipping with coupon code Shameless Sex as well. So stick with your essentials and support the little guys, little humans.
Yeah.
And when we're here for you all. And we're excited to dive into more sex questions in future episodes.
This episode's pretty long, so we were just going to intro it up
and dive in
and wish everybody just health, happiness.
Yeah,
hug people that you don't normally hug that are in your social circle that you're
don't hug strangers.
Yeah, don't hug the strangers that are in your
not with air hug from 6 feet away.
Or elbow high five.
Elbow, yeah. I actually met my partner's brother the other day, and we did the elbow. Yeah. Like met them for the first time, and it was an elbow instead of like a handshake.
I'm forgetting to like not hug people. I'm like, oh, sorry, I guess I shouldn't hug.
It's hard for me to get used to. We're so used to it because we live in Santa Cruz, so we're like, let's hug it out. But I was last week, the thing I was like, I'm not giving that up. This week I'm like, I'm fucking giving that up. Like I'll stand over here and be like, sorry. I mean, not you, obviously. We were kind of a package deal, but
if I get sick, you get sick. I feel like we have strong immune systems, but I feel like everybody is susceptible, and obviously this is scary. But it's not like the zombie apocalypse, right? We can overcome this.
Yeah. There aren't zombies out yet. I still think I should learn how to shoot a gun, though. If anyone's curious about our medicinal...
If the NRA is looking to sponsor a podcast...
we're finally on... oh, my God. Everything's changed. America, what the hell? And if anyone is curious about what we're doing for our health... I'm a huge fan of saltwater gargles in the morning and at night to block viruses from coming in. I also...
Vitamin C is really good, too.
I'm taking 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, not all at once. I'm also taking zinc. I'm taking vitamin D. I'm taking...
That's not vitamin D.
Vitamin B12. I'm also taking ashwagandha because... what's her name told us to do it?
I know.
For your adrenal glands.
I need to do that. I'm doing stress support stuff, too, for my adrenals.
Yeah. Meditation.
Kava.
Yeah.
Meditation's great.
Sleep. Lots of sleep.
Yeah. Sleep. And we have been also diving into the fermented grape category of wine. So
it's still
my partner was like, you might want to conserve the wine because conserve because I've just been kind of indulging.
Well, in hard times, sometimes we need to feel. Here's pleasure. We're talking about pleasure here. Moderation. Well, everything is moderation because we want to keep our immune system strong. So maybe not like getting hammered drunk, but like
I need 5 bottles of wine.
we need to have. I need to feel some joy still. So I love my wine.
Well, y'all,
let's dive on into the podcast.
You still are part of the shameless sex revolution. Mm-hmm. So,
it's going on. Shameless sex is not going down unless the internet all of a sudden disappears. Shameless sex is not going anywhere.
So we're going to keep coming to you.
And then if the internet disappears, we'll be on some soapbox with a megaphone.
Yeah. Santa Cruz, gather!
Like the good old days.
With a megaphone. Yeah, like the
or
good
no,
old
maybe
days.
don't even, maybe like one of those cones.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not even a megaphone.
We're gonna have to start a publication, a newspaper publication, snail mail. If the mail shuts down, we're fucked.
Oh, you know what? Here's some other thing. Did I say this in this last episode? Maybe I did. Where people are getting reach out to folks who don't normally get support and love, and like because there's a lot of lonely people right now. And you know what? Now's a good time. I actually sent an email about this.
The SPCA,
adopt
an animal.
So SPCA or the animal shelters are looking for foster homes right now, so that the animals don't have to just be in the kennel. And so even if you're not allowed to have an animal for a long period of time, I'm sure landlords right now, like not all of them, but some of them might be like, all right, fine, you can have an animal for 2 months or something.
That'd also be an excuse to get you outside more often.
Yeah,
because you have to let your dog out.
But then you get your touch needs met by having this sweet little creature. I have one on my lap, and I'm so grateful that I got this animal. So, and they need it too. So it goes.
Yeah,
both
they're
ways.
all going to be. I thought about that in kennels all the time, and
yeah. And touch is important. People go crazy in isolation without touch and connection. Yeah. At least we have the internet and all these ways that the kids were totally right about. All those kids that were not getting out from behind the screens, they're like, told you so, suck us.
I know.
It would come down to this. All right, enough rambling. You ready to dive into the podcast?
Let's do this.
I'll see y'all soon.
Let's get it going, ladies.
Let's get it going. We were just talking about orgies and gangbangs.
I thought we were already recording.
Wait. Let me press the red button.
Yeah, we got to talk about the gangbangs.
I've always wanted to say I'm here for the gangbang with like a 12-pack of condoms.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a 25-pack.
Yeah.
The gangbang?
Depends on how many folks are here for the gangbang.
So who is this guy who you had on your podcast?
So he has a podcast. It's called the Man Horror Podcast, and his name is Billy Procida. And so he was a guest on our podcast.
He's a comedian as well.
He's a comedian. It was a recent episode 149 on the Shameless Sex Podcast, and I think it's called.
What are you guys up to?
150 today. Just released
150.
it.
Nice. Yes.
And we have some bonus episodes too, but it's 150 now.
I can't believe we're at 150. It doesn't seem like we've done that 150 times. How many episodes are you at?
2 something,
yeah.
early twos.
You were in a whole year before we started too.
Yeah.
And Kyle, everyone who's listening, he actually gave us a lot of advice on how to start our podcast. So
yeah, you really did.
He helped to initiate us into this world.
It's pretty easy. The barriers to entry for starting a podcast are a lot lower than making a movie or something like that.
And there's a lot of great info online, but it is helpful to have someone show you the ropes so that you don't do a whole bunch of trial and error and buy the wrong equipment and all that business too. But we're grateful to you.
It's good to get a bunch out of the way too early before you really start promoting it, because you're going to suck at it for a while.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out like up into like episode 20, 30, like, oh, why was that good? Why did that suck? And then you can start pushing it out. So I just started interviewing my friends early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a lot of interesting folks in your life, which is helpful.
True. That was a cool thing. It's like I started realizing like, oh, I have some radical
Because if you're just
friends.
in Nebraska and you're like, hey, I want to interview my neighbors, you're like, no, maybe not as interesting. Maybe it is.
What was the Radio Lab or not Radio Lab? The guys from
Freakonomics?
Not Freakonomics. There was the podcast that was done about the guys down in the South. It was a storytelling podcast. Ooh, Serial. Not Serial.
Oh.
Serial.
Serial
was the one, the murder podcast.
Was it Serial? Someone's shouting it out.
Yeah, someone's like, whoever's shouting it out.
Write it out.
You
win.
To the
You're winner.
Yeah.
Back to gangbangs. So about that gangbang. But it was just such an interesting podcast. We were so happy we had him on, even though we were a little skeptical at first because we're like, the man whore, what's up with this? And he has such this fun, playful, insightful perspective. Again, he doesn't identify as a sex educator, but he actually goes to a lot of sex parties, and so he knows a lot of the protocol for consent and how to navigate a sex party in a way that might be less triggering and more playful, and gets paid sometimes to organize gangbangs where you can literally tell them, hey, I want a gangbang. I want 5 guys there. I want them all to wear condoms. I want them one to come on my face. I don't need to know what they look like.
Whatever your fantasy is.
But I want you need to be there to make sure I'm safe.
Is this like a survey?
I think so. They do. He takes
10 minutes.
the whole intake form. There's like a form.
Take 10 minutes to fill out the gangbang survey.
And then he would.
Where would you like me to come? On the face.
How
on the
awesome
ass.
is this, though, is to have someone organize it for you to be able to relax and surrender, to know that as long as you trust them, you know that you're fully safe. And then here's the other thing: a lot of us who are interested in maybe having like group sex, orgy, gangbang, whatever, if that's on the list. I know that you've liked some gangbang porn in the past, April. I don't know if you actually want that, but
seems like a lot of work.
But what if you're
depending on the gangbang?
So what if you're blindfolded? You don't have to see any of them. So looks actually go off the table of that even being important. And it's more about the energy. But you have this person that can actually find all the people and organize it. And he was telling the story about the woman that wanted the gangbang and was blindfolded because she wanted to walk around New York City after and look at everyone in the eye and be like, "Were you fucking me?" and it was in this. He actually did this. He actually organized this for her.
Turns out it was just him.
Yeah. A whole bunch of dildos.
All right, now it's a new guy.
A whole bunch of dildos and
all
fucking
right, now
machines.
I'm coming back.
Well, the thing is, it has to be consensual. So if you have some deeper, darker fantasies, he's not going to make those come true. There's no bestiality or anything that's dark. He will make them come true to the best of his ability and to the best of modern day society's proclamation of what is typical and or maybe atypical, but
or what
acceptable.
is like consensual.
How does he sell this? Does he have a website?
So
you fill out a form,
no.
you talk
This
about
was
what you want?
as of now, it's kind of like
he probably
word
left his
of
phone
mouth.
number on our podcast. He's like, call me at 972-555.
Is
for the
there a
gangbang.
consultation beforehand?
Yeah, I think he does a whole process. But I mean, this is his main profession. He's a comedian as well, so he does stand-up comedy, and he has
A lot of
this
good material
podcast.
there.
Yeah, totally, and he's funny. He's
I
really
met
funny.
his mom first at Sex Expo in Brooklyn. Amy and I were part of the Sex Expo in Brooklyn, which is
isn't
like
she
this
totally like
massive
a New
thing.
Yorker?
Yeah,
Or-
she came up to me. She's like, "You got to go meet my son." I was like, "Who's your son?" She's like, "Billy Procida. He's got a sex podcast. You got to be on. It's called Man Whore." I was like, "Wow, that's a lot of information." And
She's so proud of him.
She's super proud of him, which I also thought was fantastic. And so met him and didn't really think much of it until he was on our show. I was skeptical until he was on the show, and then he was at my house because I was on his show. Amy wasn't available, and he rolled up and I was like, "What are we talking about? What are we doing?" And he ended up being really funny. But the gangbang thing is, I think he enjoys doing it.
Oh yeah,
participating and or organizing. So
And
if
sex
you
parties.
want a gangbang,
Call Billy Procida.
call Billy
555.
mostly in New York
and
City.
then he has a number of other guys who are like contract laborers
I think-
or employees.
No friends.
Do
the
they get
people
any,
he finds.
do they get
They
benefits?
don't get paid.
They're in
not
a
because
union.
then that's sex work, and then you have a thing.
Are they part of the stimulus package that's coming?
The stimulus package that Trump is giving us.
The gangbang industry has been hit hard by coronavirus, and we need the stimulus package
Hey, yeah,
now.
we didn't say that. This is our quarantine episode.
This is
We're
the quarantine.
quarantined right now.
Yes, we are.
I was
For
just talking
us-
about putting on the Corona 19 because I feel like I'm going to put on 19 pounds from
In your
being stuck
quarantine?
inside, and all I want to do is eat and drink. That's all I want to do.
I mean, he goes to walk in nature still.
I want to walk in nature, but it's been raining in Santa
true.
Cruz for
Yeah,
2
it's
days,
nice now.
and my animal hates rain. He's a diva.
Apparently, Corona beer got hit hard by this.
I heard
bet.
that. I heard no one
But
wants
they
to
will not
drink
change
it.
their name. April was cracking joke calling the Modelo Negro or
No, Modelo
virus.
Especial. I'm like, I've got a really efficient form of Corona.
You know,
It's called Modelo Especial.
I was thinking about the Corona dropping, and obviously how illogical that is, but it speaks to how many intuitive thinkers there are. Like, I did a podcast with this investigative journalist named Abby Martin a few weeks back. Super smart gal.
She was at the Motherfucker Wars last year, right?
Yep.
Or this year?
Both years.
Okay.
Yeah. She's great. She helps us with research. But we were talking about conspiracy theorists, and we were talking about the rise of conspiracy and how all this stuff has kind of blown up into the mainstream over the last few years. And apparently there are certain like mental predispositions towards conspiracy theorists, and they've done studies on this. So like one is they would do things like say, would you rather get a paper cut or would you rather sleep a night in pajamas that were once worn by Charles Manson?
Whoa.
Like things like that.
And your answer would determine if you're
it determines whether or not, I forget the name of it. It's like, are you an intuitive thinker or a rational thinker?
Okay.
Because rationally, it's just a pair of pajamas, but intuitively, you don't want to sleep in pajamas that were worn by Charles Manson, right? And a lot of people who have kind of who are predisposed to conspiracy thinking are more intuitive thinkers. They just don't like the feeling or the idea of it. And conspiracy theorists also will use a lot of those kinds of terms, like the powers that be, the Illuminati. It's all very vague and kind of difficult to nail down, and a lot of these conspiracies don't make sense to logical thinkers, but it's our worldview. You know?
What are you if you buy 1,000 rolls of toilet paper? What kind of thinker are you? That's my real question.
In fear.
You're fucking fearful hoarder is what you are.
I'm like, how much are you going to be defecating to require you to need that much toilet paper?
And why is defecating the most important thing? That
I don't know.
So
get a bidet
about?
or hop in the shower.
Plenty of people in the world use their hand and wash it.
I know.
The worst case scenario, you got some hands, you got some rags, you got some leaves.
And then you wash your hand
oak.
after you wipe with your hand. It actually does. It's efficient. I was
sorry,
in India
some
for
people
over a month.
like, I was one of those people. I'm sorry. We're judging.
We're
you
not
right
shaming
now.
you.
We're not,
I'm just saying though.
I'm wondering behind the logic behind it as well.
And bleach.
It's weird that we wipe our asses with paper and think that that's clean though. Like
that other
the
things are
analogy
not?
would be like
It's like the Western world's idea of clean.
If you wipe chocolate off your face with toilet paper, would that be clean?
I just think that chocolate.
You'd want to use water. Why do we do that with our ass and think that's good enough?
That's true. But then bidets are like such a weird concept to people. As someone,
I love a bidet.
Bidets
I've never tried a bidet yet. I haven't tried one.
God.
I'm thinking
they're so good.
There's now the Western style bidet toilet seat. I don't know if you've ever looked or.
Can you just get it?
They're about $600. You do need an outlet, so it needs to be
you
charged.
can get one for like $30 on Amazon.
Yeah, I heard that.
I only have had the fancy one that deodorizes you. You're like poof, and you're like it like really does get in there.
Gets you with some water and a little
and you get a little deodorizer. I don't know what's in the
little
deodorizer.
eucalyptus puff at the end. I want it to be like antibacterial now, like have some dial.
That alcohol could dry out your bum. Just saying, your asshole could get real dried out from the alcohol.
It has a hand
I
sanitizer.
want to start a bidet company that says this bidet is the shit.
That's the marketing tagline.
Yeah. I was talking to one of our girlfriends. I was like kind of asking questions about this. I was a little curious, like, what's with all this toilet paper thing? And we made the name for a toilet paper brand Snuggle Butt. We thought there should be a toilet paper brand that was just called Snuggle Butt because people are so concerned with their soft, perfectly like snuggly toilet. Because that's the thing is, like, I wonder that's it too. Like, you can find plenty shitty, hard recycled toilet paper out there. I've seen many rolls of that, but not the soft name brand.
I do buy the 7th generation.
No, you're not.
It's good stuff. Is that good stuff?
The
it literally feels like I'm taking a piece of cardboard and wiping my ass. And I'm like, I love the environment, but not this much.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, this hurts my butthole.
There's one that's like
I want to
unbearable.
think about the environment every time I itch my ass.
And I do. I'm like, I'm paying for the sins of all of these people on the planet. Damn it.
And then your ass is bleeding.
And really, I mean, I'm not trying to hate. I wish they could make environmentally friendly toilet paper just a little bit softer.
There's a lot of environmental products that I think do the movement more harm than good because they just don't work, and then it gives people the idea that environmental products don't work, and they're like, "Yeah, fuck that bullshit.
Yeah.
This straw is impotent."
Mm-hmm. It stops sucking up liquid after about 5 minutes of use,
or the whole thing. It
starts just being mushy.
Yeah.
What do you say? So we talked about this a little bit before starting the podcast about we were talking about where you work. April and I work in the sex toy industry and in the sex health and wellness industry as well, and how this is going to shift or change, and how just sex in general and life in general is going to change with what's going on right now. And one thing we talked about on a podcast we recently recorded was that people have more time at home. One of the things in sex that people say is, I don't have enough time to do the work to like maintain sex practices with my partner, to maintain sexual
busy. I'm too busy. Guess what?
Masturbation, self-pleasure practices. Now, what's your if you're now now still
You're
too
out of
busy.
excuses, bro. You're out of excuses.
Yeah.
You gotta go in. You gotta go in
one of the
hard.
issues is still childcare, because that is another thing that would get in the way for people. Now your kids
but
aren't
the kids
in school.
sleep. They sleep too.
They sleep at some point, and you're not.
And you're not
have
exhausted.
I've been working all day. Yeah. So the excuse is still there. Now I'm curious.
We're holding all of you accountable who have ever used that, including myself. I've said I'm tired a few times.
And sometimes, of course, that's true.
It
That's
is true.
very, very true. But I'm not trying to say that those people have been lying. And I'm just curious what will happen with that now when people have more spaciousness. We'll see.
I'm thinking it's going to be called instead of the baby boom, the corona boom. They are going to be people making babies, perhaps without even consciously knowing how many times they had sex in a week. They thought they were ovulating or not. They thought they were past. Now, wow, there's a corona baby boom. And look, sorry, you might not be able to get to the store to get your birth control re-upped. So you're just going to pop it out. You might be out of condoms, and they're out of them at Costco for some reason.
Really?
I don't know if they are, but I'm just assuming they're out of toilet paper.
I'm going to have to start using toilet paper.
Yeah.
Wrap it in a plastic bag. Hope for the best.
Well, there's another reason why people should use sex toys, because if you're not trying to procreate but you want to go and have some pleasure, then hey, sex toy time.
You know the way of rationing toilet paper that they do in the military, and I don't mean to
Just
get
little
us back to
squares?
shitting. Yeah, so you use a square, you fold it in
Quarters?
half in quarters,
Okay.
and then you rip out the side of it so that you can put your finger through the center of the square. You wipe your ass with your finger, then you take the square off your finger, so you wipe the shit off your finger, and then you use the little part that you ripped off to wipe through your fingernail.
Yeah, the fingernail is what would disturb me
Yeah.
the most, because there's a lot of organisms that get trapped under there.
What if someone has
Wow.
diarrhea?
The what?
The
Rhea, the diarrheas,
The rhea.
the
Rhea.
dysentery, the things that are
Use the bidet. I
one-
think we should all
Softer.
switch to
But in the
bidets.
The softest
military, they don't
stool.
have a bidet out there.
They don't. They usually just have.
That's why I never joined the military.
Let's get your Navy
Yeah.
SEAL friend on
I
the
mean-
podcast and ask him about getting the Rhea when he was.
We've talked about
No.
poop enough. I didn't mean to diverge.
It depends
you guys
on
are
the
talking
ply.
about making
the
babies.
ply
Talk about
thickness really
pleasure.
depends on how effective this would be. I have to say. I'm going to try it when I get home just to see how effective this is, because one square
You're
just
gonna put-
is never enough.
You're gonna put your finger in your butt to clean your butt. You're germaphobe. I really just don't think you're gonna do it. But when you do,
Yeah.
let me know how it goes.
So how are you guys doing through the corona?
Through the corona, I mean, we're drinking some delicious.
I just
Marsden's
got back
wine.
from Australia
She came
2
home
days
early.
ago. I came home early because I was not panicked. I felt that everyone else reaching out to me was, and I thought to myself, okay. And then the company I was visiting, our distributor there, said all the Americans went home. I was the only one left, and maybe I should consider either flying to Vanuatu or Fiji, or I should go home, and I want to be with my animals. So I flew home a few days early, and I got home to fucking chaos.
Really?
I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, right?
No, Kyle is a very straight edge
Yeah.
PG.
I don't know. I don't
I'm
want to.
basically Mormon.
Okay. We were talking about shit a bunch, so I figured it was okay.
Sex and gangbangs.
Oh, yeah. Good. Okay, cool.
But we can't say fuck.
This is not PG-13 then. It's rated R.
gonna beep
It's
it out.
rated Armageddon.
So what was it like going through the airport?
It was so chill. In San Francisco, I have flown. The last time Amy and I actually landed from Germany, we had more of an issue getting through customs than this time. I thought there were going to be sections where people were being quarantined or secondary screened for fever. Nothing. They asked me where I landed from. I said Australia. I was in New Zealand before that. And then they said, I'm global entry, which I didn't think it was much of a difference either. I got right through it. 2 minutes. It was under 2. I timed it. It was under 2 minutes.
They're nicer to you if you have global entry.
Are they?
They treat you better.
Okay.
My mom flew back from Australia though the week ago as well, and I believe she said it was super easy too. And she's not global entry,
Okay.
and it was pretty smooth sailing.
It was
That's
smooth.
what she said.
When I landed
So
in
when
Australia,
did you get back?
I Monday.
Okay.
So it's Tuesday?
Oh, yeah. So it's yesterday.
Yesterday.
Oh wow.
So that was
yeah.
the 15th.
That was after it really hit.
Yeah.
Like I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Tuesday today.
I thought it was
it's-
Wednesday. Oh yeah. Yeah,
It's
Monday.
Tuesday. It seemed like on Sunday it was when everyone started taking this very seriously. It went from being out there to like, holy shit, you got to stock up on your
Yeah.
food now. I went to, I was going to shoot shoot bow and arrow with a buddy of mine. 9 a.m. We're going to De La Viega. There's this little archery range there. And he calls me. He's like, he's a filmmaker. He's like, hey man, they just canceled March Madness, which is a huge deal. He's like, fuck dude, I'm out like 20 grand. Like this was a huge job for me. And he's like, you should maybe go stock up on food. I think that a lot of things are going to start domino affecting right now. I go to grocery outlet. There's no lines. It's totally normal. I start stocking up on a bunch of food. And people are like heckling me. They're like, oh, someone's stocking up. I see this one woman. She looks at me. She goes, you're smart. She's stocking up too. Get through. 3 hours later, it's lines out the door. Yeah. 2 hour long
What day was
lines.
this?
Sunday.
So 2
days ago.
The fact that they have no sports, no... Like, think about, okay, I know sports. I don't know sports. I know how important sports are for a lot of, I'm going to say just Americans because I don't want to talk about the rest of the world, but football for the rest of the world is very important. Soccer, for those of you that are American. It's so important.
No need to be pretentious.
Okay. No, I know, but my mom would be like, what? Football? American football? No, she wouldn't even say that. She had no idea. She'd think that I was talking about
there's only one
the 49ers.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is no sports to watch. Okay, then there's no theme parks. What do people do that constantly want to have their brains entertained with something that is feeding them, that's usually on the television or on their phones? They make bets. They are losing money / not being entertained. So hopefully they're going to be meditating or reading books or listening to podcasts.
I've never meditated or read a book in my life, but now
Corona came around.
I hope so.
Until
This
Corona
is what
came
I hope.
around.
I hope our brains will grow by not just kind of releasing.
Well, I'll tell you the way that it's felt on like physiologically for me right now. I feel like called to do something, and I don't know if it's just like my age. I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm like, yeah, like wait, this is like a time. Like I feel like I'm being called to war or something. Like I've had that kind of response of like, oh, my family needs me, my friends need me. This is a time right now that's like I have a guilty kind of excitement around it. Because, and I think that evolutionarily, like we've been very good at coming together and responding in times of crisis. But the problem with this crisis is you just need to sit on your ass at home. It's like our grandfathers were called to go to World War II and they acted, whereas now you're like, yeah, I want to act, I want to help. Damn, I just got to Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Totally. Well, and I heard someone saying, that politicians, a lot of people are like, oh, this is a great time for people to be at home with their families. What about people who have a terrible family life, who get abused at home, and actually going to school or being at work is the way that they actually get to escape the terrors that happen at home, and now they have to be there. So there's like, on one side, yeah, the American dream is the opportunity for our family to all be together finally, but not everyone has that. A lot of people don't. And so it could, I think, go both ways. One where some really wonderful things could happen in terms of slowing down and in developing more connection, and also can be the opposite. Could be highly traumatizing for people, and then stir crazy. Like people go crazy when they're stir crazy.
Well, so I just spoke with my friend today who has a 2-year-old who is stay-at-home mom, and I'm using air quotes because she is an entrepreneur who does a lot of her work from her laptop, and she has a lot of different businesses. And she was like, I valued the time that my daughter was at daycare because I had me time that I didn't realize that I even had. And she's like, I'm going fucking nuts with the amount of time because it's all on the daycare gave her daughter a chance to interact with other humans that were her age, meaning children, toddlers, and it gave her parents the time, specifically her mother, the time to take care of herself. And now she's on this clock of her daughter, and she's like, this is hard. It's exhausting. And I think probably a lot of parents are feeling that struggle on whatever level, because think about the daycare takes care of food, they take care of, or schools, they take care of all of these things that you value when you have them less time. Like I have my kids on spring break and summer vacation where everybody's out, it's warm weather, and now it's a little bit cold. It's springtime in the northern hemisphere. However, it's still a time where the kids are away most of the time.
I love my kids, just not all the time.
Yeah. What a little bit of a break.
I'm like, this might also be birth control for some of us that were thinking about children, where I'm like, damn, that looks stressful.
Yeah.
I was never thinking about children, but I'm like, wow, now I definitely don't want that shit.
I think and there's an opportunity here. Like April and I won't give the details away because it's a kind of a brilliant idea, and so we don't want to share what it is yet, but we're designing our own sex ed program that is I'll just say that. And we're still working on what that looks like. And so that's now we're looking at this like, oh, we have more spaciousness. Of course, we still have other jobs that we're working in the sex toy industry. But so it is a time where we can really dive into more creative projects like you're doing. Kyle, you said you're just podcasting like crazy.
Blogging, podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing some kind of series, and I'll just say it now. I'm still figuring out exactly how I'm going to frame it up, but call it like the Silver Linings series. So it's silver linings through a pandemic, like things that you know, whether it's novel experiences or skills that you've picked up, you know, a reevaluation of your life and values. Like it reprioritizes everything very quickly. And I'm sure that there are going to be some really great stories that come out of this. And I want to be able to document that because we don't have these kinds of opportunities to see how humans react very often. Like I've never seen it in my lifetime, and I want to. I'm just putting my journalism hat on, and I want to document as many of these stories as possible. So if people throughout the next couple weeks have any just interesting things that they notice about how their behavior is shifting, how their interests are shifting, how their priorities, you know, are moving, I want to get those stories because. Have you guys ever heard of the book Tribe by Sebastian Junger?
Yes.
Great book. So he argues that humans thrive through adversity. What we hate most is feeling unneeded, which is what society is really good at making us feel. You know, and he has documented throughout history, like during the Blitzkrieg, depression and suicide rates went down because all of a sudden people felt this community cohesion, like they were needed, right?
You'd love it.
So I think that there's going to be a lot of really cool stories that come out of this. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stir-crazy people. There's going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, that fall back on addiction. But like, if they can harness that, this time of adversity, I mean, as a journalist, it's just gold.
I think the pressure of all of the things that once were so important have been realized to be that much less important. I mean, the industries that were once booming and so viable, the cruise ship industry, which is such a piece of shit industry. No offense.
It's like all the piece of shit industries have been just shown on full display of being piece of shit industries.
And they're falling apart.
And I'm like, I honestly do see the value in Disney. I think they do a lot of good. But the fact that the theme park industry is also feeling the crunch and the crush, I'm like, yes. And I'm bummed that tourism is down because I love when people travel. But fuck all-inclusive resorts. Sorry, you're not contributing to maybe some of the people that needed your money in the countries that you visit because you wanted that dream of visiting that country and checking that box off your passport checklist. Anyway, the point coming back to is that the word that keeps coming up in all of this to me, that it comes up day in, day out, almost hour, is tribe. And the fact that you reference that is really amazing because you really do. I'm calling more of the people in my life that I love and admire and adore and talking creatively with them more than I have in a long time, because typically we're talking about what's going on, stresses, where we've been, traveling, what are you looking forward to?
Logistics.
Yeah. And sometimes we get deep, of course, not all the time.
Logistics and ego too.
Yeah.
That the branding and the self, like we're such a self-centered society. I've noticed through Instagram just over the last few days, when people are out to lunch and they're not posting about something helpful, it illuminates their self-centeredness so fucking clearly. We're like, oh wow, this is your default. And it's most of our defaults because we've been incentivized through social media to turn the camera around on ourselves. But I think that it's really cool in the sense that, like, who are the 5 people you texted first when you heard about this? Like, those are your friends. Like, those are the people that you should be putting more emphasis on, more focus on in your life. You know, it's not the weak connections.
I was actually the other day trying to think about that when I first heard about the coronavirus and what my feelings were, how I heard about it, and what my reaction is. I actually don't remember, and it wasn't that long ago, so I don't actually recall what that is. But I like what you're saying, that I think normal everyday conversations with a lot of people are kind of superficial, and they don't naturally have this inclination to go internally and share their fears and their insecurities and their hopes and their dreams and all the deeper rooted stuff because they're not trained to speak about that. And and they're not practiced. But right now, everyone's in this collective experience of this is fucking hard or scary or crazy, and so it is inspiring more of that to show up here. And so it is interesting that we have to have hardship to inspire vulnerability and deeper sharing and connection of ourselves. And I've seen that happen a lot, like with death. You know, you have someone in your life that passes away, and we all knew that person, and then all of a sudden we have this collective grieving. We're all crying together, when normally we don't show those emotions to each other.
Yeah. Or you could do a series not on silver linings, but on vices. Like, I've just been like jerking off and eating salted almonds like way too much. Like, I'm just like,
talk about the COVID-19. I've been eating so much
I just
sweets.
have this.
Yes.
I have like this huge bag of like salted, sugary, awesome.
You're serious right now?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, no, what? I'm
not judging you, but I'm thinking that you get the salt in your cock when you're jerking off too. You're
no, it's not like in
No,
unison.
not during.
I'm not
during.
I'm
no,
not like.
I was like, no. Simultaneously, like, I'm gonna come. Yes.
Crunch, splurge. Crunch, splurge.
Someone's into it.
It's a new form of asphyxiation.
I've been indulging more because I've been wondering. Asphyxiation.
Yeah.
I've been indulging more.
Let's say it in 3. 1, 2, 3.
Asphyxiation.
We got it that time.
I thought that maybe for a second, not that I'm scared of the end of the days, but I might not be able to enjoy some of the luxuries of the sweets that I typically love. So I've been baking more than I usually do.
When you think
I've been home in 24 hours and I baked like 2 batches of cookies, and I made.
Where's my cookies?
I did not bring you any. I'm sorry. A lot of them got consumed yesterday. And also, have you ever heard of Tim Tams from Australia?
Oh, yeah.
I fucking polished off 2 full things of Tim Tams. And I'm like, this is not, like, I am not a junk food eater. Yeah. And I feel you with the chocolate covered. Yeah. Oh my God. And you don't get Tim Tams here, thankfully. I don't know where they are, and I don't want to. If you do know where they are, don't tell me, because I love that. They're like chocolate covered biscuits. If you don't know biscuits in some countries,
partner right now is probably brought some back from Australia when they were just there.
I did bring some back.
Treats.
I was hoping they would last for weeks, and they didn't. So I feel you, Kyle, with your indulgence.
Yeah, I think Vices is going to be a way more fun series. Yeah,
I like that too.
One thing I was thinking about is casual sex and dating during this time.
Ooh.
Like folks who are single and were relying on dating to actually have some sort of connection with other people and receive touch, and now they're like, I mean, so what's going to happen? You're in your house and you don't get to date, so now you could do like some online.
I don't do online dating, but some of my friends have been like, Tinder's dead.
Yeah, Tinder's dead.
So my neighbor is on. So we share like a flat, let's say, but it's divided by a wall, but 2 separate doors. She is a 49-year-old. Newly single human and definitely digs the younger generation. And she said that her Bumble has been blowing up with people that want to come hit. And she has like, I'm like, so how much did you get? She likes to catch some D's like on a reg, like when she has, because she works really hard and she's in the mortgage industry, and that's also blowing up right now because mortgage rates are at 0%. So people are either refining or they're taking out loans to buy a home because this is a record.
Now's the time.
Now is the time. And so she's super busy. And I was like, well, how's the D catching going? Like, what's going on? Fill me in. And she said that, whenever I have a break, like they're hitting me up. They're coming in from every angle and they want to drive up. And they're like, no, I don't have the COVID-19. Do you have time for me? And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. From Santa Barbara, from like San Luis Obispo, from all like north, south.
They're hungry right now.
Yeah.
Well,
so I don't know, maybe Tinder's off, but maybe check out Bumble.
Or check out a different app. But a lot of folks are opting out of them because they're like, this thing is dormant in your system. There's no, so like, I don't have it, but you don't know if you have it, right? Like, I don't have the COVID.
What do you do? You show up in a hazmat suit and like, hey, I'm going to cut a hole. We're going to get this shit done.
Yeah, there you go. Is it passed through genitals?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I wear a condom and a hazmat suit. We could kiss.
Oh shit! I think my dick breathed.
You just masturbate separately and look at each other through binoculars.
Yeah, they're 6 feet away though. 6 feet away, of course, in separate rooms. But I wonder how it's going to affect these things. And then there's also the aftermath. Like when we get used to something, we get used to a way of being around people. I was at the line at the drugstore the other day, and people were standing 6 feet away from each other.
You're on the phone with me. You're like 6 feet. Oh damn! I was like, what's going on? You're like, I didn't know.
Someone else in there said that, and so I thought about that, how that could get stuck. Say we have to do this for 2 months, or where they're saying that, and then it becomes a new way of being, and then all of a sudden do you think we'll all be functioning differently? And then the dating world too, people all of a sudden are more fearful, like what happened with HIV. Of course, it was sexually transmitted, but it changed the way that people were having casual sex, obviously. Maybe this will change a little bit of the way that people are casually just touching each other.
It's probably going to kill the MILF industry.
MILF industry's
and
done.
Like,
Why?
You're high risk.
Oh, because
Are you over 65?
Yeah.
How old are you? I'm 64 and a half. You're fine. Okay,
Yeah,
let's do it. Let's do this.
you're safe.
Yeah, it makes your age range like 18 to 35. Like now, it's not only preferences; it's evolutionary, or it's not evolutionary. It's
survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
will you survive the COVID?
There's a survival factor in your proclivities towards ages.
Well, what about also? I mean, I know there's so many people that are out of a job right now, but like sex workers, right? They're like, and there's sex with their job is to like be so, and not just there, so many people, but their job is literally to like oftentimes to be like fully face to face with other bodies, and so that's off the table. There's just so many things that are just so threatened right now.
I think the cam market's going to go. It's going to skyrocket. Camming.
Camming.
So you can cam
girls.
people. That's safe, and those people are consenting workers that you can actually, if you really want to interact with someone sexually, check out the cam market.
I wonder if there's a COVID-19 fetish now.
Oh my god!
Do you have COVID? Let me see you cough on this microphone. Yeah, you get it.
If it's not here, it's going to be there tomorrow.
I have a fever and the chills.
Have
and
you guys
been
texted an article about Trump getting the virus or something?
It's a big dick.
Big black
big black dick.
Yes, yes. I saw that.
Who is this dude?
I don't know.
Who is this dude?
But my
He's
partner's
everywhere.
daughter sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, he got COVID-19."
Yeah.
Who is
And then I clicked
this
it. I was
black man with a 13-inch wiener?
Yeah.
Because everyone listening to this knows what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I'm sorry, you don't have good friends.
Oh, but you're going to get this soon. And it shows up in other ways. It's not just about Trump, by the way. I've got it in 2 different formats.
Oh, you have?
I
See, I only got it in the Trump form.
is your neighborhood quarantined? And you click on it and like, oh shit.
And the website looks legit. Like it looks really like specifically geared towards safety.
Have you gotten the photo where it says this is how COVID-19 started, and it's a finger with this little like virus on it, and you zoom in on it, and it's a big black dick?
No. Why? What's up with the color? Like the people of color's
big
cocks.
black dick. They're so obsessed with the big black, the BBD. They're so obsessed with some BBD. It's just when we.
I encourage those folks with BBWs to just or BB any BB
big black.
Oh wait, no.
Big white. Are you talking about big white
big
dick?
white dicks. I don't know, any dick
big,
or any vag.
Oh,
any vulva.
Yeah, BB.
What about that? What about vulva? Inspiring vulva pics.
Yeah, why aren't you getting a big old vulva picture?
I think it's less shocking.
I'm going to start it. I'm going to take a photo of my pussy and then send it to you. It's like, is your neighborhood
BBW, this is why I was thinking BBW is big, beautiful women. That's a category on YouPorn.
Oh,
it is.
I've
seen.
It's that's what you want to get famous. Like, they say, have you guys ever heard this saying, when it comes to fame, you want everyone to know your name, but no one to know your face.
So you send your genitals.
I want everyone to know my pussy, but no one to know my face.
But how would you be famous then?
Because
it's your pussy.
Because your pussy would go viral.
Okay. But my face isn't attached, but they still know it's mine. So my pussy is famous, but they don't know
the human
Amy's
is
pussy.
On all this viral coronavirus.
I'm sure you could just Google it and be like, whose big black dick are we keep looking at when people are sending this out in this little text message?
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, his post too.
Who did he send that to originally? Is he in porn? That's what we really should be asking ourselves.
He's got to be in porn.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty muscular dude, too. He's massive.
He's a big guy.
In all sorts of ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does his dick look like when it's not
a dick
engorged?
That big? It's pretty hard for it to get fully hard. I think they often are top heavy, and it will have it'll kind of go up a little bit, and then like a burr. I don't think that cocks that big have the ability to just be like a pole sticking straight up.
I want to say
from an engineering standpoint,
I want to state for the record something.
It goes up like that, but then there's a curvature in it.
I am not a person that's a fan of at least having sex with big dicks. So I have a shallow vagina, and I just want to put this out there because I think a lot of folks, especially, and I don't like to stereotype, but I'm saying a lot of heterosexual men think that a lot of heterosexual women or people that identify as women love big dicks. If I had sex with one big dick, the Laker player back in the day, and not going to name names there, and it hurt, and I could not ever see myself going back to that because I did walk with a limp, and I have a shallow vagina. My gynecologist told me. So FYI, to you listening out there, big dicks, awesome, great. You need big vaginas. Any size dick. Other than that, you just have to find the right vagina if you want vaginas.
What if like big dicks were more likely to give you the coronavirus?
And then all of a sudden we hate big dicks.
Let's play some what if games. So what if
big dicks the
coronavirus gets super bad? Okay. I mean, so we have these diseases, right, where it's like 60% mortality, right? This stuff has happened, like Spanish flu, where it just wipes
the
out.
Bubonic plague. Yes.
That was like 100,
that
right?
Really
like if you got that, you were
tough.
done. Like,
you were
sorry,
done.
Later.
Yeah.
You know that Spanish flu, by the way, it didn't just affect Spanish people, but the media was so locked down during that time. Spanish journalists were the first ones to report on it, and that's how it got its name.
Fun fact.
That's also because media was so much more available back then because of the printing press and all of those things. It was
much less available. You mean?
It was more available then, like circulatory wise, meaning the information, than it was when the bubonic plague hit. There wasn't a lot of information available. So, if that makes sense.
You compared those two, not today.
You weren't comparing.
I'm not comparing those to today. Today, totally different scenario.
Today, a big black dick can get seen by a billion people in one day.
Yes, this is true.
All right, so Corona wipes out 60% of the world. We have no supplies, no more global supplies. We have to go back to hunting and gathering into small groups. Everyone becomes non-monogamous again. Like, Chris Ryan rules the world.
Chris Ryan rules the world. He's like, I was right. Yeah. I was right all along. Yeah, Sex at Dawn.
I was talking to him last night. I was like, turns out you were right about that whole shit hitting the fan thing that you wrote about in Civilized to Death.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his whole book. His latest book, Civilized to Death, was all about the price of progress.
Mm-hmm. What does he say about this right now? Anything worth sharing?
He said, I told you so.
Yeah. Damn it, Chris.
He's laughing.
What's
over
your
a
next
beer.
prediction, Nostradamus?
All right, so that's what if. Let's describe this new world of hunter-gatherers.
Okay, so we were talking just about that one right now. If it's like that.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Going back to hunter-gatherer
society.
society.
If it's like that, my vision for how that's even possible is that has to be less humans in all of the areas for that to work, right?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to have massive amounts of people in one area. So people would be more spread out, but there would be more collective and a collective sharing and community in terms of the resources, in terms of taking care of each other's children, and maybe more sharing. Because of his whole platform is that. It's the agricultural movement that brought on this idea of like possession of other people's bodies. That's why people are like, marriage came as a business arrangement, all these things. So all of a sudden marriage is out the window and people are more like, oh yeah, this is my person that I raised the children with, and we all raise each other's children. And this isn't just my one body that I have sex with. I can have sex with other people's. I mean, maybe they don't know whose kids are whose. It's just like I have sex with all these folks and we're all raising each other's children.
Only little dicks though.
Only little dicks.
My vagina's involved. That's what I prefer.
Only big dicks carry the virus. Big dicks are like leper colonies.
Oh my god!
They all get sent to like the Channel Islands to like basketball players.
That's really and with no way to get out of there ever. We're sorry hating on big dicks. Sorry, big dicks. We hope this doesn't happen to you. I honestly think what's more likely though, Kyle, is like that's a beautiful, the shiny side, like your story, I like that it's going to wipe out 60% and return this like utopian of non-monogamy and we're all in a community and taking care of each other.
I went from like 60% of the world's population falling off to non-monogamy.
Yeah,
that's what
and everyone, a lot of people, more people than not have died off, and now we're in this great place.
Well, my question would be, what 60%? Is it mostly folks with vaginas that die off? Is it all
people in poverty, elderly folks?
What percentage and what gender? So if it's or do they identify with genders? How is that looking? So I had more questions for this situation because obviously I think it would depend on where the drop-offs are and how people find each other, and if there's internet still, are there is it like I Am Legend, the movie that you
I can
really
provide safety, shelter, anyone. He's like going to the video store talking to mannequins.
Yeah, right? Like what are we dealing with? You're sending out radio signal to find who the fuck's still available. So I think there's a lot of, in my opinion, obstacles with that scenario. So if it's a utopian society,
there's no obstacles with it. Yeah.
Well, I know. I don't know. I thought with Amy's response, great. However, you still don't have any guarantees about how the world is so vast. Yeah. There wouldn't be airlines. There wouldn't be any transportation to reach anyone in other places. So your car would hopefully work, and then you have to figure out ways to siphon gas. This is survival.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to hope and hook up with people that are fucking awesome with surviving.
And then you're going to eliminate people. You're going to outcast other people. And so I thought
about all of this, by the way, in my brain.
Yeah, I like this theory, but I'm thinking more like, I'm an eternal optimist, by the way, but I think that if what you're talking about happens, I think there's more raping and pillaging and like fighting.
That's why you got to fucking defend yourself. And you know what, dude? Might have a small vagina, but I can fucking hurt a bitch. Okay.
Got a small vagina, but a huge shotgun.
Yeah.
Dude,
I know some jujitsu. What?
Fuck with this girl. She'll get you.
Yeah. Jeez. But you know what? Also, then I would start to want to procreate because then.
You need a little
I've never
army.
wanted to procreate because we need enough. We have enough humans on the planet. If this does wipe out a bunch of the population, I will reconsider. And yes, maybe I'll be taking small dick nominations. Like who wants to try to impregnate this bitch right here?
You can send the applications to me. I'm doing the screening process. I'll bring my measuring tape. We're taking 4 inches or less, please. Hard.
It's 5.6, Amy. 5.6 in centimeters. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so we're forging abalone. We're
we can eat the
hunting
abalone
mushrooms. We got some deer. Santa Cruz would be doing okay. Other parts of the world, San Diego, you guys would be a little bit more.
Good luck.
A little more strapped.
Wisconsin, you're getting raccoon.
Desert.
Arizona's having a hard time.
Arizona, you're just getting those armadillos. I don't think they're even there.
I heard some snake is some good.
Oh yeah, not the poisonous ones.
So hunting becomes more valuable. Mm-hmm. Community cohesion, storytelling becomes more valuable. You know, people need ways to spiritual leaders. People need some way to assemble some meaning into their life. But there's a new religion that starts. What kind of new religion is going to start?
Ooh, the religion of love.
Yeah.
I think the religion of Earth as our
like paganism
source,
back.
Like native culture, meaning the I hate saying American Indians. However, the folks that were originally indigenous to this land, North American land of the United States of America, those folks, where it's all about practicing earth and balance, and it's about letting the earth sustain what was originally meant to just obviously carry over, and it will. I think in my brain that would be the best, beautiful, most possible thing is giving back and living in balance, all organisms with each other in harmony.
One of my favorite memes I've seen so far was so America is stopping all Europeans from coming because there's a chance of spreading disease. All Native Americans. Well, ain't that some shit?
Word, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, wish we could have put on a ban on that shit.
Because you want to protect yourselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
wonderful.
That's why it's so funny. This country was it was built on folks that immigrated, and then they put all these travel bans on people. Not specifically now. I'm talking about immigration laws that have been passed that are so fucked, for lack of a better word. And I'm like, well, how can you ban people from immigrating to the United States when this country was built on immigration? How many of you motherfuckers are actually indigenous to this land? The people that are imprisoned in their reservations usually.
No, that's so smart that we did a travel ban. Like that we know this now.
Yeah,
like
that we did travel. Okay, but I'm going to ask you a question. Though. You did a travel ban against Europeans coming here, but not against Americans that are in Europe that coming back home because we need to let them at home. But like they hung out with a whole bunch of people that. What?
Because you can't deny someone access to their own country. That's not possible.
You're just trying to also are trying to flatten the curve. You know, you want to restrict the travel so it doesn't blow up like it did in Italy.
Yeah,
like in Italy, they now, not to get super dark, but this is a dark time. Like they are having to just not treat people over 80 in a lot of hospitals. They're like, sorry.
Yeah, people are dying. Well, those are the things that they're like
they don't
literally
have enough
suffocating
ICUs.
to death.
They're on day 50 of quarantine in China in certain parts. Day 50. Yeah. And there haven't been riots or looting or anything, but also this is something that I brought up to Amy today before you arrived, Kyle, is that Italy and China don't have gun access. We have access to guns in this country. And I'm not trying to make this dark, as you were saying. However, Second Amendment to the United States of America, guns.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great example, though, of how you can't price out externalities. Like the people that have argued for so long, like, yeah, you can just dominate the environment. I mean, this is to your point of like a new religion forming around the earth. For so long, the people argue that, well, if the market says that we should do it, then you should be able to cut down that forest. You should be able to use all these resources to no end and dominate the earth. But you start to see where that falls apart in a situation like this, right? Where you can never fully take into account the value of a healthy ecosystem. Like I have a buddy whose dad is now at super high risk for getting the virus because of some kind of medication that he's on that lowers cholesterol. I forget the name of it.
I know what you're talking about.
But he said that his dad would always argue, like, well, look, my cholesterol numbers are fine with this medication. But he was saying, like, yeah, but you're not healthy. Yeah. Like, you could lower cholesterol also with exercise and healthy eating. And, we know what a holistic system looks like. We just haven't been doing that. And now the shit's hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Did you see that movie, Kyle? The Biggest Little Farm?
Oh, I love that movie.
No.
Yeah, they create.
Oh,
you haven't seen it?
My God,
So
dude!
good.
So
Isn't
this
it, it's in California.
It's in California. It's in Modesto, outside of Modesto, in a barren land that was. The farmers received the land for dirt cheap, and it was barren. There were no minerals in the soil. I encourage and invite anyone out there who is.
I've heard of this.
They create their own little
amazing.
ecosystem.
Regenerated
And
ecosystem.
I don't even want to give it away because it's such a beautiful story, and it also comes with its whole set of challenges, and not only sets of challenges, but you do get a little, like, coyotes were evil for a second, and then you realize, and they set up these barriers for coyotes, but they realized, yes, the coyotes were doing X, Y, and Z in their ecosystem, and they were also contributing to the natural evolution of growth and prosperity with all the symbiosis of what they were doing. And it was such
a tropic cascade.
Yes.
You're working with everything as it is in its natural order.
All of it. Even if it has parasitic tendencies, or we feel like it's something that should be wiped out. This is what drives me crazy. I'm allergic to honeybees. I don't want them fucking gone from the planet. I love them. When I see them, I'm like, please live, little honeybee.
Don't come near me though.
And if you come near me, like, maybe I should just do a little bit of an intake slowly and hope I don't die. I got my one EpiPen left.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was a great YouTube
Not to go
video.
dark again.
You
Damn
guys
it.
see the YouTube video how the wolves changed the river, Yellowstone,
No.
when they reintroduced wolves into Yellowstone, and they then changed the migration patterns of the deer that were hanging out at the bottom of these big gullies, eroding the rivers. And once the deer moved out of the gullies because it's easier for the wolves to kill them there, all of a sudden plants started growing back there, and then beavers started coming back in that area, and then it actually changed the path of the river by reintroducing wolves.
Well, something that was actually a creature was supposed to be there was initially there in the first place.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and when you have top predators, it's called a tropic cascade because they impact the rest of the ecosystem. Let's go for it.
That was something. So that whole migration, how humans changed so many patterns of animals that have been around forever. So shark patterns changed during the slave trade from Africa to the U.S. based on how many bodies they were dumping over. I learned this on a podcast when I was commuting from Newport Beach to Burbank for 2.5 years. I listened to podcast after podcast. This is like a long time ago. And I learned so many things from Stuff You Should Know. Have you ever listened to that podcast?
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was like before podcasts were huge. And I learned all of these random useless knowledge that actually is significant. And that great white sharks, and they still use the same patterns today from Africa to through the Atlantic to the obviously the East Coast of the United States because of the slave trade. That's fucking crazy. Anyway, I don't know if this podcast is about random useless knowledge, but I love dropping that on people when I can because I think it's so fascinating.
Oh, this whole podcast is about random useless knowledge.
Perfect.
Did you know that baby sharks inside the womb will sometimes eat each other.
No. How many? Really?
Fucking brothers and sisters
How many
will
sharks
eat each
have
other
been-
before they're born.
Have died.
Yeah.
It's like unpredictable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whenever you start thinking you're a badass because you watch a UFC and do push-ups, think about sharks eating each other inside the fucking womb.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
They're
That's awesome.
they're little tiny baby. Just
But they're
cannibalistic.
They're primal. It's a primal thing.
it is a primal thing. It's survival of the fittest. Before you even
There's
body.
what's the book? The Devil's Teeth. Have you guys heard of this? It's all about the Farallon Islands. The Farallon Islands are some of the most highly densely
Someone was telling me about
populated areas of shark in the whole world. Oh yeah, it's crazy. There's stories of people.
I'm going to write this down
going out there.
after we're done.
Yeah, like there's a story of Santa Cruz surfers. Like people probably know, like Flea and Barney, these big wave Santa Cruz surfers. They go out to the Farallon Islands, right? And they're like, there's waves out there. They want to go surf, but no one ever goes surfing out there because it's so sharky. And they're on this boat. They're getting in their wetsuits, and this research boat comes up next to them. They're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're going surfing." So you're going surfing here? They're like, yeah, we're going surfing. He's like, why don't you throw your surfboard in the water there? Throw the surfboard in the water. Immediately gets hit by a great white shark.
Oh, fuck.
Because that's how the researchers would call them in. Like they would throw things off, and the sharks were getting apparently like trained.
Probably
to
because
hit
there's
it.
so many
it was
sharks
like
in the water?
Immediate, yeah.
It was the
and
frenzy.
At first I thought
the frenzied eating.
Yeah, first I thought this story wasn't true, but then it was verified by a few people.
So is that off the coast of Santa Cruz?
Just north of Santa Cruz.
Okay,
It's
wow.
San Francisco.
No way.
Yeah.
And that's the triangle of,
Yeah.
I mean, at least the Pacific sharks. They're,
Great whites, yeah.
Right.
It's where a lot of great whites hang out. is on the
that's
Farallones.
incredible.
Yeah.
The devil's teeth?
The Devil's Teeth.
I'm gonna check that out. I took a helicopter ride 2 years ago and saw some of the big on the Monterey Bay and saw some of the biggest white sharks that even the pilot is like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never seen this many sharks, because they were sunning themselves and there were surfers so close. But I was like, they're living in harmony with each other. There's no reason to kill. He also said that he could tell that one's like 20 meters. I was like, no, it's not 20 meters, bro. I don't think so. It looked massive, but definitely there were probably at least 500 or 600 sharks that I saw.
Sharks don't want to eat you.
No.
You're 4 times as likely to get killed by a vending machine as you are a shark.
Oh, fucking vending
People
machines.
will shake the vending machines and it'll fall and it'll kill them.
Fear
Yeah.
sharks. I love them. I love the sharks.
I have a whole bit about this. It's like sharks kill indiscriminately, but
Vending machines.
Vending machines, yeah.
they hunt a very specific type of person.
I get
A
my
lot of meat.
Cheetos.
Out of me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I'm happy that you said that, because I thought it was lightning, but vending machine deaths. Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, vending
Didn't know.
machines. You gotta
I'm gonna
watch
look
for
out,
those.
because it's just when you shake it.
This last year, I went diving with whale sharks down in Mexico, in La Paz. That is the shit, if anyone ever has a chance to do it. So whale sharks are massive, and the juveniles even are massive. And you go out in these boats, they're totally safe. They have these huge mouths, but no teeth. They just eat, I think they just eat plankton. But they're also really slow, and they get curious about movement. So you jump off, and they'll swim right up to you. This is like a 15-foot animal, swims right up to you. And you're just looking at this thing and you feel so fucking small. It's like being underwater with an elephant. And how's this? So they have all these spots on the top of them. And researchers have mapped out and they've mapped out whale sharks using the same technology as astronomers use to map constellations. The star patterns up in the sky are the same. We use the same mapping technology to map whale sharks' spots on their backs.
Interesting.
Wow. So above as below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whale
When
sharks.
did you do that?
Last year for my brother's wedding. He got married down
Oh,
there.
you guys did that all together.
Shout out to the Tobes.
The Tobes.
I know.
Hey,
I have
Tobes.
friends that did a whale, like my really good friend that has a podcast here locally as well for moms, but she did a whale shark tour off the coast of Tulum, and they said that it takes like 2.5 hours, and it's super hot. I don't know about off the coast of where you went, but they said the swells were so big, like every single person on the boat was just
They got sick.
so sick, and it was gnarly. But I was like, so they're like, no one enjoyed the whale sharks. We're like, bro, look at that, bro.
Yeah.
It's like a total shit show.
Fuck these sharks, I'm ready to go home.
I'm like, I like those sharks, but I can't see shit. I'm tired. Anyway, I want to go diving with the sharks. That would be amazing. The whale sharks or any sharks.
Yeah, in La Paz, you can do that.
Oh, that would be incredible. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I love that.
It's good, huh?
I got a what if.
Go for it.
All right, what if through all this COVID-19 business, there is a mass shutdown and control on all of the media information sharing, and they get rid of podcasting.
YouTube still exists.
No, they get rid of all of it.
No
all
media.
Of it's gone.
Oh, no media.
All of it's gone. Podcasting's gone too.
No media.
No social media. No podcasting.
Is the interweb still available? Are we dealing with the emails?
Yeah, but it's full control. Like if it's fully controlled, you can just look up some pages.
It's fully controlled?
Yeah, you can't. There's no.
So it's basically like we're living in Saudi Arabia.
Sharing. Opinion sharing's done.
People have to go to the Over the Hill Gang Saloon and see my comedy shows.
We got to do the whole in-person thing. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, you're gonna have to do in-person stuff, in-person storytelling.
Yeah,
orators.
Again, you're back to the same thing that you were just talking about.
Do you have fax machines?
We're sitting.
I have a lot of questions. Fax machines isn't media.
That's true.
They are not media.
They're listening, but they're also listening to everything that you're saying.
Morse code.
They are listening.
They are listening.
They're listening on things. So then we all of a sudden come back to the whole thing of needing to be in person and have all of our connections and communication in person. But yeah, it's at the same time we have a virus that we're afraid of being in person with each other.
I don't know.
Okay, so all media is shut down.
Yes.
Well, that probably, and including social media.
Yeah, that's gone.
Well, that's going to be good for everyone because Instagram is what's destroying lives right now because I have not been able to get off my phone over the last few days, and that would probably inspire people to like learn how to play the piano and write a book. Everyone wants to do all this stuff that takes focus, but no one has focus anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
That's the issue with being quarantined. It's not that like
Adderall prescriptions will go down. I bet you.
You think?
I think so. When people don't have to be so hyper focused all the time, and they can actually use their creative, right? Yeah. We're a society driven by labor, and I'm not saying labor, physical labor. I'm talking about mental labor.
Yeah. Well, how much of media is helping your life, and how much is it just indulgent? Mm-hmm. Because we structure media now the same way that we structure sports. I mean, you look at the primary debates the other night. It's like it's the same. It's the same format as people talking about a football game. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like they're just going back and forth, and it's very argumentative. It's not meant to deliver helpful, useful information. So, I mean, I think that your worlds of like no media, like you're gonna,
or the media you get is very controlled, skewed. Mm-hmm. Which it already is. I mean, we already have. We know that's there, but
right now everyone has a voice. It's just about who you want to listen to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of platforms available. Like you're saying, there's a lot of platforms like with podcasting. Yeah, you can choose these different platforms. You choose these different voices that you want to listen to. There's a lot of freedom of choice, and it's not that in the history that hasn't been and there plenty of times when there wasn't an option.
Well, look at controlled government systems. When you have China is controlled, they don't have Instagram in China. And they don't have a lot of social media. Saudi Arabia has no media that isn't controlled by
Saudi Arabia.
Well, we have 976 downloads, and we don't know if those are people visiting or if they actually live there.
That's so
and
great.
Since we're not speaking Arabic, I doubt that they actually are listening. I bet it's travelers. I'm just saying, like I think those. What you all are saying is accurate. I just don't know how much media, when it's controlled or when you take it away, it's a different situation. Controlling media is a whole nother thing, which is happening right now, where everything is censored and controlled. So aside from podcasts, which pretty much, I've said this before, it's the last uncensored form of media, because when you write a book, it's uncensored. However, you have a publisher that you have to provide the information to that either supports you. You could be self-published. You could be like Chance the Rapper and not have a label, but you still have to have backing.
I like how you just said Chance the Rapper and you did like a little rap thing. Yeah. Like, Chance the Rapper. You did like the arm, like what a gangster would do when he says Chance the Rapper.
I was embracing.
It's one-to-one podcasting, no publisher, self, me to you, one-to-one, speaking truth through a microphone straight into your ears. Chance the Rapper.
He's doing a lot with his hands right now.
There's a lot. Yeah, I think that we'll have to do in-person media, but it'll be like in a big dome, but you won't be able to stand very close to each other, so it'll be like very dispersed. Everyone will be on the edges, and you'll have like a microphone talking to people, like, "Well, the daily news, everyone," and they'll have to like, I don't know, just listen on their own.
Newspapers will come back.
Yeah.
They're still here.
Yeah, but they're dying.
That what if was too dark, Amy? Let's do. I was texting
feeling
earlier.
dark
I was
today.
texting other what if the coronavirus lowers testosterone in men and raises it in women and that's.
Do you want me to do?
Ooh,
Should
I
I
like
do
that
a
one.
what if?
I like that one. You got what?
I could do a what if.
Yeah.
I want you to do what if. I just want to comment on Kyle's real quick.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, yes.
Wait. The lowers
wasn't paying
testosterone raises.
I know I
the
wasn't.
estrogen?
I was thinking about it. What if?
Lowers
So
testosterone raises
what if
estrogen?
a side effect of corona was it lowers testosterone in men and raises it in women?
Ooh,
Oh, I didn't hear this. Sorry. That was a bad one to miss. I'm so sorry. That's a good one.
Ooh, I'm
Kyle,
the
shit.
patriarchy finally dies.
And raises
Yes,
it
we
in
finally
women.
Well,
Victory.
Definitely more pussy pics will be sent around instead of dick pics.
Like, you want to fuck?
Yeah.
Down to fuck DTF.
Guys will be like, I don't think that's very sensitive of you to be sending all this stuff around.
We take some time to get to know each other.
Yeah, all of a sudden on Tinder and Bumble, it's pussy pics instead of dick pics, and guys are like, no one wants to see your pussy pic, okay? I want to get to know you a little bit better.
And what happens when there's birth? It's like, yeah, shoot this baby out. Whoa, I got this. yeah. Let's do it again.
Women are like, send me a picture of your dick, and guys are like, no, just send me a picture of your navel or something. I want to imagine it a
I
little
just
bit
want your
more.
eyes.
Can
Can
you
you
just
say, yeah. Just send me your smile. I want to see a full frontal of your face. That's it.
I like that one. I'm into that. Maybe that will happen.
Maybe
I
that should
want
be
some
where
more
we end on that because
testosterone.
my what if wasn't that good.
I'm digging some
No,
more.
let's
having some more
keep it
testosterone.
going. I want to keep the imagination going.
I wasn't going to do a dark one. I was just thinking about because the what ifs these days are like the zombie apocalypse, right? And you have to. It is at least where I'm going. So what if you have no access to obviously things that make you prettier or smell?
Oh, you were talking about this earlier
Yes.
today.
So the things that
Botox?
people like the Botox, the injections, also though haircuts and deodorant and the things that hygienically make you smell better. So I'm talking shampoos, perfumes, the things that alter the things that make you attractive to
I
other
like
people.
This is good.
All
Yes,
the folks
in
that
the
are
world.
so used to things that change, alter them.
Yes.
And like,
so
and
you can't get your hair done anymore.
this is
You can't
good.
alter
It's not-
yourself
This is what I'm
anymore.
saying. And okay, so your razor will work for your legs and until it doesn't. You can't buy those things anymore. You can't get shampoo and conditioner. You have to figure out how to make yourself. So braces, non-existent. If you have a kid with fucked up teeth, not going to get them. You're fucked. Your kid's
Sorry.
fucked. So what about that? Like
Botox and injections. I think that's a big one.
And beauty standards become more closely aligned with survival.
Yeah.
So hairy legs, she's
or-
going to be able to survive the winter.
Yeah, or you actually do have some meat on your bones, like a curvier woman.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, she's going to also survive the
instead of
winter.
like that
Winter.
bitch is going to die real quick in the
want-
elements.
I want a thick woman with hairy legs who can chop wood.
She's a keeper. I'm into
And
it.
the bigger the beard, the better the man. Because dude, don't have a razor. Oh, you have no hair on your face. Damn.
All of a sudden, instead of doing duck face from above, you do puffy face from below to make yourself look
See how
bigger.
big my face is?
Oh, animals going crazy.
I don't know.
like
it's
that.
interesting to think about.
But so, especially
Okay,
when you're
I
talking
like
about people
this.
that are so used. So you're talking about the same
Nails
generation
done.
that's still used to this, and now all of a
Yes.
sudden it's taken away. And I'm sure a lot of people listening right now are shaking in their boots because they're like, "Oh fuck," to think about how used to this you are.
Solid. That
You're
was a
like,
good one.
your association with that identity.
Well, I think about some of my friends that get their eyelashes done. They get Botox on a regular. They have some lip injections. Those things do dissipate. And what about celebrities that do get the best facials, the best treatments?
Yeah.
I'm talking
all of a sudden you see
body-
the real them. And
you
you're
see
like,
the real
oh.
them, and that may not look as good as you thought. I don't know. I just thought about this because of someone that couldn't. She's like, I will die without my lash extensions. I was like,
You'll be fine.
You will not die without your lash extensions. They're get some fucking mascara. And then I was like, but what if mascara doesn't exist? And then I went down that rabbit hole. So that's all I was putting out there.
No, I like this. So, what happens if you don't get if you are getting Botox and then you stop getting Botox? Is there a rebounding effect where you start looking super old?
No, it just Eventually,
Well, if everyone's
yes.
used
It's just
to you looking
if
that way all of a
everyone's,
sudden.
you'll just get the wrinkles and the paralysis stops, and your fine lines and wrinkles just start to show up.
What is Botox?
It's obviously
it paralyzes.
paralyzes
your face.
the muscles, so they can do it in different areas to either lift or get rid of the fine lines and the wrinkles that usually happen. That's why people stop being able to move their foreheads typically, and then obviously you can do it. But then there's facial, the fat that gets put, or the fillers that get put in the cheeks to make what I mean. Look, if you look at folks, celebrities, and you can see how lifted their cheekbones are, you can actually see. And then lip injections also, you get them on a regular. And then that's just the face, right? Then you have other people that get breast augmentation, and there's right reasons to do that and not. But then you have the things that like plastic surgery is no longer available. You have to go off your instincts, real biological attraction to people. What happens?
You finally get to see everyone for who they really are aesthetically.
Yeah.
Like, in the actual
Look,
appearance.
I don't really grow facial hair, but I'm assuming that some people do, even if they don't have the hormones to balance them, right? Wow. Think about all of this.
Yeah.
Fucking bizarre.
You guys, I'm sure, know about the dirty T-shirt test. So, I'm so surprised. You guys will love this. So, women can tell who they're biologically compatible with by smelling men's dirty T-shirts, if they're attracted to the scent, if they're attracted to the scent, they're going to be more biologically compatible with it. They lose that ability though when they take birth control.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
we
do know about this.
We've had. They didn't call it the dirty T-shirt test.
No, but now I know. Yes.
Okay, so that'll be cool because
we're getting rid of birth control too.
What's that?
Are you getting rid of birth control too? Is what you're saying? We're getting rid of all these things?
I don't think we need to go there, but just aesthetically, yeah. I mean, they're going to have all the women that are camping hot are going to rule the world.
Camping hot, I like this.
Well, that's what I was thinking. That I'm like, okay, most of the people that live in Santa Cruz, there's a lot of natural folks.
There are
a lot
of camping hotters.
Yes.
There's
here.
some babes.
Yeah. And then when you go to where there's more money, there's a lot more of the aesthetically pleasing options for people. They can get more plastic surgery. They can get more fillers. They can get more Botox.
Oh, dude, I spend half my time down in LA, and I'll go through Malibu sometimes. It's like walking around with aliens when you go into a coffee shop. It's such a weird aesthetic. It's a bunch of 50-year-old women, and they all look the same.
Yeah.
They all look it's like platinum blonde, crazy alien faces.
Big
like
eyes,
they're smiling, but
big
you can't really
lips.
tell if they're smiling. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They're looking for the next D.
Looking for that
You
next
could have been
D.
that next D, dude.
Well, and then over
You're
time,
like, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
I got my coffee.
Nah.
I got my
over
flat
time,
white.
this would
I'm
change
down with girls that
like,
use like seaweed as deodorant.
Yeah.
It's going to be like all natural products, but like all
That's what I'm
natural,
saying.
like dirt and kelp and fungus. Yeah, that's like, what are you going to do with that?
I switched to natural deodorant, and I have to tell you, I felt like it made me smell worse. So then when I have no deodorant, I'm like, I actually like this better than natural deodorant because I don't sweat that much unless I'm working out really heavily.
You like what better than natural deodorant?
Than just no deodorant.
Oh, no deodorant,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, at least don't smell. If you can shave your armpits. Now, I don't know how it would smell if I had big, hairy, bushy armpits.
Ooh, let's bring those back.
That's definitely coming back in.
I've seen.
in
I've seen.
Well, no, it's not now. I don't want to encourage that kind of thing. But
I don't-
but in this future dystopia,
Obviously, Kyle has a preference.
Can I still shave my bush though? I really like my bush. I just like a landing strip.
You have to you have to sharpen a rock to shave your bush.
what if like hairy armpits become super popular? So you like shave your bush and use that hair for armpit hair.
Merkin for your pits? A pit merkin.
Yeah. Instead of like getting fat off of your elbows and like putting it into.
You're trying to put hair as many places as
Or
possible.
not elbows. Like
I don't grow enough hair for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have some of mine
I'm
if you want.
I know. I
Similar
grow like
to this.
no hair anywhere in my
some of mine?
body. So I love my pubic hair. I'm like, no, I'm keeping this shit. I like it.
Yeah, I have plenty of hair for you if you want.
My armpits grow like very
pit merkin?
sparsely, but I've never grown them out longer than like 6 months.
What you're talking about right now is also would change the standard for beauty too, because the standard for beauty is something that has been completely shaped by mass media and access to all these different ways that people can alter themselves. And all of a sudden, the standard of beauty is completely different. So all your like super, like whatever, doughy-eyed, big lips, big boobs, all these things
Small
that
nose,
most
big
people
lips,
aren't. Look at the
doughy-eyed.
Kim Kardashian look that people have to pay for. Like no one is born that
I know.
way.
I want to see, and I'm saying this with. Okay, I'm just going to say it without trying to be a dick. I want to see what Kardashian's kid looks like without any alterations.
Kardashian kid?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, she can get not one or any of them. They can't get one bit of
plastic surgery or injections or help, what will the kid look like?
Yeah. No, it's my vision of this this future world where there's no media and we have to go off of attraction that is representative of survival in this new world. I think it's like them crazy Viking bitches are going to be super hot, like 6'3", like Viking.
Can you chop this log?
Yeah, big thighs. Could high kick and run for 20 miles straight without stopping.
I
like that.
A dream about
women with strong senses of smell.
Yeah.
They know how to find edible plants. Can track wild
They
boar.
know how to forage. I know what the mushrooms are.
I can forage like the best of them.
And now that
build
the
a mean
corona
fire.
has raised testosterone testosterone in females, they'll be the only ones that can go out.
I have a gift for finding psilocybin
Take on the storm.
in nature.
Men will be home weaving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Dude, this is interesting.
I like this world. I mean, these are all interesting worlds. We're getting rid of social media and any sort of mass media. We're getting rid of any of the, current beauty standards and things that are altering people as they are in their natural selves. We're also creating a non-monogamous communal utopia. Chris Ryan, are you listening? He's like, yep, into all of it. Yep.
I have a question. I want to fact check myself. Is the Second Amendment the right to bear arms?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I said the Second Amendment. I was like, I can't remember if this is the second one.
Are you pleading the fifth?
No, I knew that one was the fifth one. I was like, wait, I wanted to fact check myself.
Gun sales have gone up.
I bet.
Significantly.
I'm
I can
actually
tell
thinking
you
about
all
going to buy
about
a gun.
guns. I just did a podcast called "In Defense of the NRA," and it's all about guns. And yeah, I mean, so we have as many guns in the United States as we do people,
Of course.
right? So that is going to play a significant role in this future world. If we, or will it? I mean, maybe.
I actually was thinking about getting a gun, Kyle. I can't lie.
So
I can't lie.
So this is what's happening with
Yes.
this, right? Like you have.
I told Amy, and Amy's like, I want to get a gun.
You
I
have
was like,
people
fuck yeah,
on the
dude, let's
far.
go.
You have people on the far right who are like, yeah, give me that $1,000 a month now. Like, I want this. Wait, we need this, and they're like, wait, we need healthcare. Our healthcare system is totally insufficient. And people on the left are like, that's what we've been saying. And then you have like hippies like you who are like,
Maybe we should get
what
a
is
gun.
the best home defense?
I know.
Is it a shotgun or a rifle? It's a shotgun, by the way.
My knife skills aren't that quick.
Each other.
Yeah.
We're all like understanding.
I'm like, I need a Kalashnikov in 1987. I want it to be vintage and cute.
Yeah. All of a sudden, like the argument that you've been making forever, that like, you're more likely to harm yourself if you have a gun than if you don't.
Really?
Love, people are like, bullshit. Give me the shotgun.
I know. Right now,
but
yeah.
but I think that this is what we assume this future dystopia is going to be atomized and isolated, and we're going to be hoarding, which we see with stories of like hoarding toilet paper and stuff. But I think that our the way that we've survived throughout history is through community, is through sharing. Because if you were isolated, you would get you're gone. You can't survive on your own. So psychologically, we're adapted to help each other out. We're not adapted to just like hold the shotgun and make a fort with our toilet paper.
But you're speaking to certain people. Like, this is kind of the argument between like sometimes when I see, and like, I don't want to hate on Trump supporters, but when I see women who are huge, like Trump is God supporters, when I'm like, it's someone who so blatantly is like doesn't really support or love women. There's a lot of things with like children, brown children at the border, and doesn't really have a big heart. In my opinion, this is my opinion. And so you're talking about. Like, yes, there are people who will choose love and community for survival, and there are people who will choose community of their like-skinned, colored, skinned folks, and they will also try to, exile and fight against the other people that might get in their way. So like you're talking. I don't think you're speaking to everyone. I don't.
Of course not.
Yeah. So there. That's the scarier part is like. Some folks will fight to the bitter death against folks that aren't there, are other, and that's when it gets scary.
Yeah, but I think that through this period, we've put a lot of our differences aside, and fighting this common enemy, which is the disease, has become a lot more important for people. Mm-hmm. So I think that. What's your point? Well,
because you were saying that these kind of things bring people together in community.
Yes,
and that so I mean my take was that it's actually supporting the belief that it could lead in a direction that is more utopian.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't use the word utopian. I would use the word communal, and people are now realizing that they're needed, and the way that they act really matters. I think that for a long time we've lived in a society where we've just been a little bit nerfed, and we haven't really thought that anything that we do matters. And all of a sudden that's changing. But I mean, you can look at other societies that have less of a social net. You go to a country, you go to a lot of countries in Africa, right, where people, it's more like hand to mouth. They're figuring out the next meal. Today I have this meal, tomorrow I might not. They have very little trust in their government. They have super strong family structures. And we will probably start to see that now more. Like I would imagine that people have been spending more time with their families than ever, and they've realized the importance of families and those 5 people that they texted first, because now all of a sudden it's not just nice to have friends, it's actually necessary.
I loved what you said a little bit earlier in the show, or in this actual conversation, about creating importance. The importance, people are hopefully, and I really do resonate with that, in the fact that I hope that the suicide rates will go down, and that people will have more importance, because you're right, self-worth and finding your place in the communal society is so difficult when all of it's done on a screen, and you start to value your own life with what you see other people doing, and you realize that what I'm doing might not be or look as important. And now it's time that you can show up and you can do these things that maybe you've been putting off, or that you really wanted to do, whether it's volunteering or even just donating your time or effort to helping people be better. Like, come with love, and the fear maybe put on the back burner, and come on, lead with love.
So in the 60s, there were a lot of people who were taking LSD, and there were a lot of people who were taking way too much LSD. They had no idea what was happening, and they were getting these hordes of people admitted into hospitals who were having these psychotic breaks. Turned out one of the most helpful things that doctors were able to do to calm people down when they were having these psychotic episodes was going to them and say, "Look, I know that you're having a really hard time, but there's someone in the other room that is having a really hard time right now. So if you can just keep it together for a second, that would be really helpful." And all of a sudden it would snap people out of their break, because they would realize that there was
someone else.
Even if it was fake, they would just make up these stories, right? But you realize psychologically that there's someone else in a worse situation and you're needed. You step the fuck up.
And that's the most humbling thing. And people that are well-traveled and that are fortunate enough to be well-traveled, especially to third world countries or countries that are in developing, poverty-stricken. And Kyle, you have traveled all over the world extensively. And I feel fortunate enough to have traveled as well, and not and Amy too. We've all traveled to a lot of very they haven't up and came anywhere, these countries. They have been poverty-stricken and needing water, something simple, and you humbles you, and it does make you more just aware of how fortunate we all are in Western society in first world countries. And that is the perfect example of what could happen in the demise of this. That was my biggest fear. Amy and I were just wrapping out before you got here about some of the fear that has come up with this. And that was one of mine, is the folks that they don't have options. They don't have food. They don't have the access to the things that maybe we will have. And those are the folks that I want to try and help in whatever way I can. If that means giving them food, if I have 2 cans of food and I can give you 1, I want to, and I will. Not only, and I think we can invite all of you, if you are fortunate enough to be able to provide. The hoarding factor, let's contribute to each other. And it doesn't have to be some disoriented society where we're just feeding into the media and we're mass hysteria. Let's just know that we can contribute and love each other and help each other succeed and survive in these really fucked up times.
The question is, do you hook up with people right now? Are you hooking up with people?
Are you asking us who are?
No, not like
people?
Personally, but like I mean, there's been a lot of like social distancing.
You're talking about casual. You're talking about
100%. I am. I went and I hug people. I ask them first. Yeah. Hey, are you cool?
But do you stick your tongue in their mouths?
No.
Only BJs.
If they want,
we all turn into prostitutes.
It's only safe for fellatio.
We say like, hey, will you put this plastic bag over your head while I just suck your cock, please? I'm gonna suck your cock only if you wear this plastic bag.
Kids do these masks right here.
Yeah.
You're using a dental dam.
So one thing I did want to comment on too. So I just led a Tantra in Motion retreat this weekend. We thought about canceling it. So this is like, it's a tantric weekend, so it's a 2-night retreat, and it also is combined with contact improv dance that I lead with Daniel Molnar. We almost thought about canceling it because we had 6 people cancel. We had 12 people that still wanted to do it. We're like, there's this virus. People need to be close to each other, and it's PG-13, so you're close, stay on. You can get down to like your bra or whatever, but like, and people are dancing, and they were doing some connection exercises. No one is kissing on the lips. No one's touching genitals, but you're still really close to people. And so we were like, do we do it? Because can people drop in and be sensual? And it is somewhat sexual with each other, in a way that's consensual, like they get to choose what they want to do. And people they all said what they wanted was to go off the grid and get away from all of the conversations about the scary shit. And they want to go drop in nature for 2 nights with each other. And it happened where people had such unity. So I know I've been on the dark side a lot of this podcast. I have my days. And I
have my days too.
I totally do. I'm like, I'm going to be on the dark side today.
You ever do a podcast where like everything you say is contrarian and negative? And you're like, Jesus, this says more about me than it does about anything else.
It happens at times, but I also was just immersed in pure love, connection, unity, and people forgot about what was happening in the outside world, and they were able to drop in and fully connect. So this is what I'm saying. You want to be able to still be fearless in your connections. I feel like you need to disconnect from all going down the rabbit hole of all the fear stories that are so easily available. And what I saw this weekend is how much choice we have in the power of our thought process. If you spend an hour in the rabbit hole on Facebook, you're going to be in the dark side, which I did this yesterday. So that's why I'm probably in the dark side today. But in the weekend where I was at, I came out like, the world is beautiful. There is all this, there is connection. There
people
is unity.
In the healthcare industry, though, and let's talk about the people that are in law enforcement and the people that are in firefighter and hospitals, and healthcare. They tend to also have these really dark views from my experience. I'm not going to say all of them. From what I've experienced in the last few days being back and speaking with those folks is that they have been really like, no one's reporting all of the cases and you don't even know what's going on. You only see it half of it. And I'm like, whoa.
It's bad. It's super bad. I'm fairly well educated on this and have been spending a lot of time figuring out how bad this is going to be. And the people that voices that I really trust, like Tim Ferriss, Sam Harris, people who are
Joe Rogan, dude, that
deep researchers,
yes.
like this is intense. It's very important that we're not sloppy right now about like going to parties and doing things that we would just want to do. Like right now, then this is what I'm saying is like, even though we're not being called as a country to go to war, we're being called to act precisely and being called to act precisely with our thoughts and with our decisions. And that matters. And to take that seriously and every morning recognize that what you do right now has this leveraged impact in a way that you've never had in this life. Mm-hmm. Right now, how you act, being a calm, more, to a grounding voice in amidst a group that's maybe super scared and freaked out. Like that's a powerful opportunity for every single one of us. And yeah, you might not be a firefighter or working at a hospital, but life is about those binary decisions. And you can decide to say, be like Amy and just keep saying negative things during a whole podcast.
That's not how I actually feel.
Or you can be like Kyle and just be like fucking awesome,
the
talking
level
about it's a utopia, non-monogamy, blah blah blah. I don't actually feel that this is going to happen.
Non-monogamy society of
I don't
bliss.
think that 60% of the people are going to get wiped out. I actually do. I
plus
am
I'm humbled.
optimistic about it, but I do think
I'm hoping people have no access to all the physiological shifting things that help them look better. That's what I'm hoping for.
I will say, hey, I also want to comment.
I feel like biologically I nailed it. You know, you too, Amy. You too, Kyle.
Yeah,
we're doing well in this society.
And I also will say that, like, when people have lack of touch, they go fucking crazy too. Weird shit happens when you don't have access to sex or touch, and especially if you're accustomed to it. You know, maybe you're like the single bachelor who's been like your whole identity's relying.
Amy, if we were in prison together, we would start to be lesbians. Come on, let's face it.
So last night I was I live with a guy my age, super cool dude, and last night we were making dinner together, and I was like making veggies in this cast iron pan. I looked over at him and was like, so if this shit got real, if like you and I couldn't leave the house for a year, like over, do you do like the over or under a year before we go gay? He's like, Under.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, dude, I'm saying I would totally. You just get it from where it's like pansexualism is a real thing, and I would go on vibration. Some people just I can't.
You talking about vibrations like vibrators or
no vibration like your frequency of energy.
All right, so this is the what if, right? It's like, all right, you can't. You're in a house with a group, right? Like how, and all of a sudden it's like you can't leave your house for 5 years. But somehow you have enough supplies. Like, how did the sexual...
You think of things like... I don't bring it up. I don't want to bring up like necessarily the Holocaust, but the Holocaust and like places where you have a whole bunch of bodies. People were still having sex. They found ways to have sex when you were stuck
like in Auschwitz?
Space. Yeah.
For sure.
People got pregnant in Auschwitz.
For sure.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
So this is another question that I have. I think that's...
sex all over in the hardest of times.
Wow.
Did you know also that rates of sex are higher among people in the military and nurses? People who are around death more tend to have higher libidos and want to fuck more because they are faced
hardship together.
Well, they're faced with their own mortality.
Yeah,
right. And there's this kind of like people tend to be very sacred about like sex, but in a time like Auschwitz, I would imagine that it's just like, holy shit, we don't know when we're going to die.
And the world, let's have pleasure.
Yeah, let's fuck.
Yeah, and how else are you finding pleasure, too? That's like your one access to pleasure is maybe from touch and connection in that way.
I just didn't really realize that they had space. I thought it was such a...
Well, I can't say that they had a ton of space for this.
Well, space meaning I thought they were just like working. And, if you look at the Cambodian genocide, right? They were under, what was it? Oh my God. I don't even know why I brought it up.
Khmer Rouge?
Yeah, the Khmer Rouge, right? And they were under such scrutiny that most of the millions, like 1.2 million Cambodians were wiped out.
But it doesn't mean that people weren't having sex.
I know. And they did a whole, like, they had some psychological evaluations of women specifically during some of the Khmer Rouge. And they said the one thing that they were wondering and wanting was wondering where their partners were or their men and what boys or thought of them. And men thought of them. That was something that came back. I can't remember where I read that.
Wait, say that again. They were wondering what their boys thought of them.
While they were away, like what if they were thinking of them, and then if they were going to like see their loves again, or if they would be loved again by their, instead of like they were suffering and they were facing all of this violence, and they were being forced into labor, and there was a genocide happening, and they were obviously no idea when they would be out of this situation. And a lot of them that were evaluated wanted to know if they were being thought about by their boys. I'm talking about more the children that were teens, and then a lot of the women, which most of them were extinguished. However, that was something that came up for me thinking about what, in context of this conversation, people do think about sex and pleasure. I didn't realize during like Auschwitz
that doesn't not necessarily leave, but what does happen is like sex and pleasure, but it doesn't become the primary focus. Like if say for someone, like survival becomes number one.
Yeah.
And so this is like a lot of times when people are trying to bring sex ed into is impoverished the word communities and communities that are really struggling where survival is at the forefront. Sex ed doesn't really land there because it isn't that, or like not necessarily sex ed. Pleasure ed, like trying to learn more tools about how to better sex and more sex. It's the last thing. They're just like, I'm just trying to survive here, but they still are having sex. But it is less about like the actual enhancement of sex, but the sex doesn't go out the window.
It's prison system. Think about the prison system.
People are fucking in prison.
Yeah, of course. And you have like your own structure of who you go to and who becomes your you'll bitch.
Yeah.
Or you're bottom, or if you're a top, or whatever it is.
Everything becomes more essential. Everything is reduced down. Like, I have a friend who went through a breakup recently, and like, he and his girlfriend were barely speaking. But then since through this, they started communicating a lot more, and it was less about like, hey, we should get back together, but more like, hey, I got your back if this shit really goes down.
Like, you have
Everything else,
you mean through the through COVID-19?
Yeah, through the corona, because all of a sudden, all of that other stuff you can put to the side. You realize that it's smaller than this. It's subsumed by this need to survive and come together, and we don't know how bad this is going to get, but that's what I was saying. Like, Democrat, Republican, rich, poor, broken up in a relationship, all of a sudden you feel this kind of community fascia, this social cohesion that you can step up to every time you want to make that good decision and be first to reach out.
I like that too.
I'm not going to do any of that shit. I got a ton of toilet paper and a shotgun.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, fuck, I'm fine.
Kyle, can I get one for $20? Do you have a roll of toilet paper?
Can I ask about one other thing that's like somewhat?
No,
it's actually pretty. It's irrelevant to this, but it was something Chris Ryan actually said to me. And it's like a total tangent that came to me. And if you want to end with this, is fine. But it's a question for you about podcasting, gender roles, and the feedback that you get from people. What Chris Ryan said to me before I even realized it with our podcast is that listeners and consumers are actually much more harsh with women who are in this role. So with us as podcasters, we will get a lot of critical feedback for getting political, for sharing perspectives about, our perspectives about the government, about this viral stuff, about Trump and all these things. April and I will probably receive more opinions and backlash from it than you would. This is what Chris said. He's like, people, or if you look at Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan's reviews, very rarely are people sharing these
5
information.
stars all the time.
Yeah.
We talk about,
but with us, we get the littlest thing, and
seriously.
they're like, And so I'm curious.
We invite our listeners to critique us though on a regular basis,
and we comment on it.
Negative feedback.
Yeah, and we totally comment on it. So because we're going to put this on your podcast and on our podcast, and so I'm just curious. Do you receive that from people where they're like, do you receive the information from people where they're like, I don't love that you said X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to listen to your podcast anymore because you said that, because you shared your opinion that they don't agree with.
Dude, my listeners are so cool.
Ours
They're
are too, by the way. Nice. We have fucking amazing listeners.
They're so nice. I post, I will post some political stuff on my Instagram sometimes, and there will be big debates that happen, and everyone is so cordial with each other. And that was actually one of these guys, this guy who I had on my podcast, who's NRA member, and he was defending the NRA, was in response to a post I did about gun violence. It was in response to actually, well, it wasn't really that. I did a post about the Motherfucker Awards, and I was interviewing this comedian who was pretending to be the head of the NRA, and I was like asking her these satirical questions,
the nice tits,
the woman with the nice tits,
that the person that was Mitch
Eddie
McConnell
said, So it was Kira Sultanovich, and she said, and I would ask her these satirical questions on the red carpet, like, they say that gun violence is killing all these children at schools, but what do you have to say about the fact that most people don't really like kids? Yeah, and then she would respond. But anyway, it sparked this big debate on my Instagram, and this guy, shout out to James, who is an NRA member, he was coming in with some very thoughtful pro Second Amendment points. And people on the Instagram were thoughtful, and they were trying to find the truth and become more educated about the issue. And then I ended up having James on the podcast. I said, hey man, you seem like a thoughtful guy. Let's talk about this. So I think that it's a bit about that's the normal on my show. Yeah. It's people that are curious, they're open-minded, they want to hear different perspectives. A lot of them are surfers or in the ocean world, but they also want to learn. I think they also want to learn about these other worlds, and I can serve as this kind of conduit for them. But it's a bit like I think that there's a normal in every community. Like, I'm sure that you guys know the story of the bonobos that all of the alphas ate this big trash pile, and then they ended up with tuberculosis and they all died. So then the betas took over the troop, and it completely shifted their normals, normalcy. It was much more communal. It was much more egalitarian.
Which is what's going to happen to us with the coronavirus.
And then when new alphas came in from that troop, they assimilated into this new culture rather than reverting back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that every podcast is a community, and you have those norms. But I think that to your point, yes, women are
for our intelligence and for being hysterical, for being overly outspoken.
Some men are threatened by that.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, I think
some people can be threatened.
Some people can be threatened by that. I mean,
because we don't only get criticism from men, we get criticism from
other women.
And, and I'm not saying we get a ton of it, but we definitely get some. And so this is what I wanted to put out there for folks. And this is the same thing with like some Me Too movement stuff, right? Like there's some things that happen where a man violates a woman, but if we switch the role, would you call it violation? And so I think it's just important to ask yourself these questions. Like if I were to switch gender roles, if I were to say, April says X, Y, and Z, and now I'm like, oh, how dare she say that? That's ridiculous. So she doesn't know what she's talking about. But if it was a man, would that be any different? And so it's just helpful. Not that you need to change anything, but I think just to have awareness about these things. And that's, that in itself is just
I think inviting people to even think in that realm, because a lot of times, and I don't want to say women in general, but we do come under the microscope a bit more for being certain ways, whether it is too political or too feminist, or you have your views are. We're
just
talking about a rape fantasy.
That's
too much.
Right. That's it. Is you have that saying like, "Oh, she was just too much." You don't have that nearly as much with guys.
No,
guys
not at
are.
all.
It's more expected that they're going to be assertive and even bombastic.
Take
at
up more
times.
space.
That's why I love when I hear folks slut shaming women. And I'm like, hey, what about if you were talking about a dude that did the same thing that you're talking about? And I'm specifically talking about my partner's 15-year-old daughter, because she's talking about these girls in school that are super slutty. And I was like, hey, what if that dude did that? Would you call him a total slut, like you're saying? She's like, well, no, it's different. I'm like, how is it different? And then she thinks about it, and then she's like, you're right. And I'm like, see, this is why we need to support each other. She might be having a hard time at home. She might be trying to figure out.
She might just be awesome and sexually liberated too.
I mean, not in this context, but
yeah.
yes, you're right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons people choose to be sexual. And I think, Amy, I love that you brought this up, like thinking outside of the box. And I also love that you have people on your podcast, Kyle, that don't just sing to your choir, that you have people that can encourage and invite people to think, like the NRA guy. That's awesome. We need to start conversations and think outside of our boxes. Maybe we still won't agree, but how awesome is it to have the other opinions or viewpoints or whatever perspective that you might not be comfortable with in your foresight or hindsight or whatever it is? I think it's important.
Yeah, you can't be married to your ideas, and you need to want to be wrong. You need to ask those questions. I mean, everyone has that friend that's super fucked up in one way or another, but they have this force field around them where they're not open to any kind of feedback, so you just can't give it to them.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to accept feedback, and I tip my hat to you guys for for asking for that kind of feedback, because at the end of the day, it's like the real question is just how long do you want to be wrong for?
And we'll read negative reviews that we
handle
online
it way better than I do, Amy. I'll cry a little bit, not like with big tears, but inside I'll think about some of these negative reviews for hours, sometimes for days, where I get bummed. So it affects me more so than it does Amy, because I asked her, I'm like, that doesn't bother you? She's like, no, it's okay. And I was like, we're encouraging more of this? I don't want to encourage more. I love the positivity. I love affirmations, and I love feeling special, and I love those things but I can't ever get better if people don't tell me what I can or they feel like.
And we're not going to please everyone, but we had one. Yeah, I'll read one of the negative reviews that we had here that I took a photo of. No, this is just titled "Awful Advice," 1 star. I wanted to like this podcast since there are really helpful topics. I listened to a couple after fast forwarding through the first 15 minutes to get to the point. However, when they bring on someone who is telling couples in sexless marriages that their solution is to go outside the marriage to get their needs met or to engage in a threesome to beat boredom, I can't listen anymore. That's just harmful advice. And so they give us 1 star. When you said that we actually had had a lot of really helpful topics, and there was a lot of really good things. So it's just
something triggered.
But
something triggered you. Something triggered that person.
This is my part. This is the thing. This is like the part with reviews and all those things. And so I don't know if this is necessarily about us being women. And this is just the thing with Yelp reviews and how reviews go. And so I have no problem reading these online and embracing them, and to say like, you know what? Yeah, we said someone said something that didn't resonate with you. I'm sure they also had a lot of other tips that didn't just say go fuck someone outside of your marriage.
Well, I think it's another difference though between what we're doing on our respective podcasts is you guys are talking about sex,
and it's very triggering.
Yeah, so that hits people. You know, if they got dumped, like guys will get dumped in high school, and that will last with them for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And they can't open up ever again because that, you know, she walked out on him when he was 16 years old, but that shit stayed with him, you know? And I think that there's a lot of misogyny that results from those kinds of experiences, like those getting dumped and then never wanting to feel that vulnerability because breakups hurt, and going into that place is, you know, it takes bravery, but it also fucking sucks, and it's a lot easier not to. And then when someone like you talks about whatever it is, an open relationship or sexually exploring in a way that's uncomfortable for people, like that hits that place for them, and you're the target, right? So
but this is another way to
whereas like I'm, you know, for people on my show, like they'll be like, you're right, like that surfboard shaper's way better than the other one, you know. It's just doesn't hit that same
it's
tone.
a different because it's less confronting, and so we are talking about a very confronting topic,
and we're also not a one size fits all approach. No. I think pertaining to that particular feedback, we were giving folks options that sometimes they don't have another option. They are stuck in these relationships that do you want to be stuck in this relationship forever because you have kids, but it's sexless? You're not getting anything. Your partner doesn't want to try. Do you want to continue to be stuck in that?
And we're saying, we always paint the picture, there's many options.
There's so many options. We're giving you tools. And we were saying in that one, like, hey, maybe they're not for you at this point. Sometimes you're apart.
Here's the thing. Eminem said it best. I love being hated. It lets me know that I made it.
Yeah.
If you're not getting hate, it means that you're not doing anything. And right now, you guys are crushing it with your podcast.
Yeah.
And we've been going for an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow.
But I want to finish on a final topic.
What you got for us?
Let's land on a solid note.
Okay.
What everyone's thought about mortality through this, the flash of your own life. What if this thing kills everyone? And you think about these experiences in your life and what's mattered. What have been the experiences in your life that have mattered most to you? That like if you died tomorrow, you'd be like, yeah, that was fucking rad. I'm happy that I took the time and the energy to do that.
Like
the podcast for me is huge.
Podcast.
Being a part of the sex toy industry, actually meeting Amy, because I felt like, well, it's true. You have been such an important human to encounter in my life. We met randomly working as
Gilbert Seafood
servers,
Grill,
and then there's lots of pivotal, beautiful times and experiences in my life, and I'd say the ones that are most valued have been created out of our relationship. And my partner always says, he's like, I'm your partner, but Amy's your life partner. I'm like, pretty much. I'm like, we don't bang it out, but she's like my human. She's she's my tribe. And
I love you, Chip.
I love you. This is
Kyle.
5 stars. Jesus.
Someone else is like, oh, women being too emotional now.
Right? These
too
bitches.
Much vulnerability.
So that's I will exit with that because I feel like it's with love, and I mean it.
I will piggyback on that and say mine won't be like specific things like it's living purpose, finding whatever my purpose is, and my purpose ended up being also aligned with you, which has been wonderful for us to create this, and just and also the purpose has expanded to helping to inspire people globally to live out undo a lot of the shame and trauma that they have about their sexual selves. And that is like, I think just having that, I know a lot of people live an entire life not feeling like they figured out their purpose in this world, or maybe they did, and then they realized that their purpose was actually told to them that what they should be, and it really wasn't true to them. And so I'm so grateful for that. So I think that's one piece. And then, living this life that's experienced a lot of beauty, deep love with friendships, with lovers and partners, and also a lot of magic. Like I've experienced a lot of really incredible magical beauty in this world. Like shit that's blown my mind. I'm like, you fucking kidding me? Like those moments where you're like, are you fucking kidding me? I get to do this. Like I get to live this kind of life right now. And I just like, I've had so many of those experiences. And so I feel so like rich in terms of my experience in this world already.
I want to hear what Kyle has to say. And I don't know, have you ever had plant medicine, Kyle? I think.
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
What
Did you record a podcast, Arrhythmia?
What?
Did you record a podcast, Arrhythmia?
A bunch, yeah.
One thing I thought about with this apocalypse is that all the people that drink plant medicine are going to be the survivors of this whole craziness because it connects you closer to source. And then with the purpose. And that's what also came up for me when you were talking about it.
Magic and
final
beauty.
one.
Yeah.
The vaccine is you have to eat mushrooms every day.
Ooh.
And the whole world just gets high on mushrooms permanently. And it's like Terrence McKenna's stoned ape theory where all of a sudden we start consuming mass amounts of psychedelics on a daily basis and life turns into one huge trip and it expands our frontal neocortex and we zoom off into the galaxy like Neo from the Matrix.
I'm on board. I'm totally there.
You're such a wonderfully brilliant, nerdy podcasting surfer guy. I just absolutely love it. You're the best.
I'm like an onion.
I know. You're
I'm like
awesome.
a parfait.
You're fun.
I'm like from Shrek, and with the donkey, he's like, I'm like an onion. He's like, because you make people cry? He's like, no, ogres are like onions. Like, because if you leave them out in the sun for long enough, you start sprouting all that weird green stuff. Like, no. How about like a parfait? Everybody loves no, not a parfait. I like an onion.
Oh my God. Okay, what's your answer to this question?
Yeah.
Onion.
Parfait.
Yeah. Damn good parfait.
Pudding.
Damn good.
Was it the gangbang? That's what your answer is. The gangbang.
Let's bring it back to the gang.
Let's go full circle.
By the way, no, I wanted to full circle. It was called S-Town. That was the podcast that I was thinking of at the very beginning. It was a really great story of down in the South.
Oh, yeah.
It was S-Town.
You're talking about, okay, yeah.
Well, I've got a bunch, and a lot of them have to do with, man, it's good. A lot of them are type 2 fun. A lot of them are things that were difficult in the moment. Going on, surfing scary waves or taking psychedelics or doing comedy. That's been a big one for me. I do a lot of, I'm a shitty open mics, but do it. I mean, before this, I was doing it like 4 nights a week for a while, and it sucks a lot of times. Like you go up there, you try and tell some jokes, and it's not funny, and you like go home feeling like you want to throw up a lot of times. But sometimes there are these little moments of magic,
and then you're high off of it. Probably
doing the podcast has been a very special experience for me, and gaining this community of people that listen and have similar interests. But one thing that has been a theme throughout all these experiences where if I died tomorrow, like these would all be moments. Many of them were experiences that I almost didn't do. And none of them at the time seemed reverential or perfect or like I knocked it out of the park. Most of them, like the Motherfucker Awards, for example, we did this show for 2 years. That was so hard, and the amount of stress and sleepless nights and just work that it was. But if I died tomorrow, I would look back on that and I think, yeah, that was fun. But there were experiences that in the moment, most of the time, my self-talk was like, I'm not good enough. This isn't going to work. This is hard. This person's mad at me. Why am I even doing this? Like they're not, it's so rare that our experiences in life are the picture's perfect scenario that we look back at them as. And that's what we were talking about, like fucking in Auschwitz. Like that's not this reverential experience, but you're going to fuck in Auschwitz because tomorrow you might die. Yeah. And that then I would bet that someone who died in Auschwitz was really happy they fucked the day before, even if all the stars didn't line up and weren't perfect. And I think that's important because a lot of it's not about waiting for all the stars to align. It's just about like bearing down and making it fucking happen.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. I was just thinking, I was like, damn, that's a nice way to
close it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you got that time.
This is Kyle Thiermann signing off from the COVID-19 land. Multiple
quarantine.
Infestations.
We're
the quarantine of
quarantined.
Santa Cruz County.
So where can people send you guys dick pics?
It's at April Lampert at
555-912-5592.
Our podcast is called Shameless Sex. It's on all of the apps. Just look up Shameless Sex. You can go to our website at shamelesssex.com and find out all of our information. We are also on Instagram, got the Shameless Sex Podcast on Instagram.
I don't think it has is it?
Shameless Sex Podcast on Instagram.
There you go.
And yeah, come find us, come listen. What about you? Where can our people find you?
Oh, yeah.
My name's Kyle Thiermann, and you guys can just look me up wherever, I guess. And kyle.surf is my website. That's the best place. And I do articles there. I have a weekly blog where I write meandering thoughts that will hopefully make you chuckle. That's all I trying to do. No useful information. Just a quick
amazing though, Kyle. This is my first time I've recorded with you.
I'm so glad you came.
Yeah.
You joined. This is
Amy
perfect.
reached out and was saying that she was going to record with you, and I was like, oh, I mean,
yeah, I was like, you want to come? You're like, oh, I don't know if you want me to.
I got things happening, but I love Kyle.
Yeah. I know. I am amazing. I'm humble too. It's really cool.
Yeah,
you're amazing and humble and wonderful.
Even if you can't get anything shaved or put on any perfume, you'll still be handsome.
Yeah, it's just so great.
Well, I'll be biologically in it.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll finally stop doing that Botox and shit.
Yeah. Your lip injections.
I just hope I don't have to get relegated to the Channel Islands because I have such a big dick. Peace out, everyone. Stay safe.
All right, ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.